What if Harry Potter finally stopped playing Dumbledore and Voldemort's game? After Sirius's death, Harry discovers a secret his own guardian kept buried. Potter Manor, an ancient house hidden so deeply that even the Dark Lord cannot find it. But this safety comes with a terrible cost. If Harry hides, everyone he loves becomes the target. Now Harry must decide: stay safe behind the walls, or turn the house that wasn't there into a sanctuary no one can use against him.
Harry Potter had learned, very young, that silence could be louder than shouting. At number 4, Privet Drive, silence pressed against the walls like another layer of wallpaper. It lived in the clean hallway, in the polished banister, in the neat little sitting room where every cushion sat exactly where Aunt Petunia wanted it. It waited at the breakfast table whenever Uncle Vernon unfolded the newspaper and pretended the world had not cracked open. But the silence in Harry's room was different. It was not the silence of the Dursleys ignoring him. It was the silence after a scream. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floorboards, his trunk half open beside him and Hedwig asleep in her cage. The summer air was thick and warm, but Harry felt cold in a way that had nothing to do with weather. His fingers kept closing around nothing, as if some part of him still expected to feel the rough edge of the mirror Sirius had once given him. Sirius. The name struck him every time. Sometimes it came gently, like a whisper through a closed door. Sometimes it landed like falling stone. He had died beyond a veil Harry did not understand, in a room full of prophecies Dumbledore had not told him about, in a fight Harry had rushed into because Voldemort had known exactly how to hurt him. That was the worst part, not just that Sirius was gone, that Voldemort had used him, that Dumbledore had hidden things from him, that everyone, in their own way, had pushed him toward a board he had never agreed to stand on. The prophecy still rang in Harry's head when he was tired. Neither can live while the other survives. It sounded less like destiny and more like a sentence. Downstairs, Vernon Dursley laughed suddenly at something on television. The sound was too normal, too ordinary. It belonged to a world where people cared about drills and lawns and whether the neighbors approved of their curtains. It did not belong to a world where a boy could be told that a dark wizard had marked him before he could walk, and that the adults around him had decided he was easier to manage if kept ignorant. Harry looked at the cracked bit of wall near his bed. One more summer. That was what they always said, wasn't it? One more summer at Privet Drive. One more year at Hogwarts. One more secret kept for his own good. One more danger he would be told about only after it had already taken something from him. His jaw tightened. He was tired of being placed on the doorstep, in the cupboard at the Dursleys, in front of Voldemort, behind Dumbledore's plans. A soft tapping broke through the room. Harry looked up. At first he thought it was Hedwig shifting in her cage. Then it came again. Tap, 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 not at the window, at the wall. Harry stood slowly. The tapping moved. It came from the locked door this time. Tap, tap, tap. He reached for his wand on the bedside table, then froze when he remembered the warning. Underage magic. Ministry trouble. Dumbledore had told Aunt Petunia that Harry had to stay here. The order had threatened the Dursleys at King's Cross, but threats only lasted so long inside Privet Drive. Harry crossed the room and opened the door. A goblin stood in the hallway. He was short, sharp-faced, and dressed in a dark formal coat with silver buttons. His long fingers held a sealed envelope of thick parchment. The wax seal on it was not Hogwarts red nor Ministry purple. It was black, stamped with a symbol Harry recognized at once, a vault door, Gringotts. Harry stared. The goblin stared back. From downstairs, Uncle Vernon barked, "Boy!" "Who is at the door?" The goblin did not blink. "No one at the door," he said smoothly. "I came through the account-right." Harry had no idea what that meant. Uncle Vernon's heavy steps thundered up the stairs. His purple face appeared behind Harry, already swelling with anger. "What is this?" Vernon demanded. "What are you? How did you get in my house?" The goblin turned his head very slowly. "Vernon Dursley," he said, as if reading a stain off a plate. "Muggle guardian by residence only, no standing in magical estate proceedings." Vernon's mouth opened, no sound came out. Harry almost enjoyed that. Almost. The goblin lifted the envelope toward Harry. Harry James Potter. By the will of Sirius Orion Black, acknowledged godfather by magical intent and recognized testator by House Black inheritance law, you are required to attend a full estate accounting at Gringotts Wizarding Bank. Harry's stomach tightened. Sirius's will. The goblin's voice did not soften, but something about the words made the room tilt. When? Harry asked. Now. Aunt Petunia appeared at the bottom of the stairs, long neck stretched upward, her eyes darting between Harry and the goblin. He can't go, Vernon snapped, recovering himself. He is under our roof. The goblin smiled. It was not a comforting expression. He has never been under your roof in any way Gringotts recognizes. Harry felt something in his chest move, not happiness, something sharper. The goblin extended one long finger. The wax seal on the envelope split without flame. Inside was a single sheet of parchment covered in crisp writing. Harry read only the first line, to Harry James Potter, godson and heir in all personal effects to Sirius Orion Black. His vision blurred. He hated that. He hated that grief could still ambush him in front of Vernon, in front of a stranger, in front of anyone. The goblin waited. No pity, no hurry. That helped more than kindness would have. Harry swallowed. What do I have to do? Place your hand upon the parchment and state that you attend willingly. Harry, Aunt Petunia said sharply. He looked down at her. Her face was pale, not angry now. Afraid, for a strange second, Harry wondered what exactly she feared. The goblin, magic, Dumbledore? Or losing control of the story she had told herself for 15 years? That Harry was a burden left on her doorstep. Nothing more. Harry placed his palm on the parchment. I attend willingly. The hallway folded. Privet Drive vanished like a bad dream, snapping shut. Cold air hit his face. When Harry's feet settled again, he was standing in a private chamber deep inside Gringotts. The room was all stone, silver, and shadow. No torches burned on the walls, but pale light glowed from veins in the rock itself. A long table stood in the middle, covered with ledgers, boxes, rolled parchments, and objects wrapped in dark cloth. The goblin stepped away from him. I am Senior Estate Clerk Bragnock, he said. You may sit. Harry sat because his legs were not entirely steady. Another goblin entered carrying a tray. On it sat a glass of water, a small knife, and a black book bound in what looked like dragon hide. Harry eyed the knife. Bragnock noticed. Blood confirmation, he said. Not blood payment, there is a difference. Comforting, Harry muttered. Bragnock's mouth twitched, which might have been amusement. He opened the first ledger. The estate of Sirius Orion Black is complex. House Black is old, hostile, and poorly behaved even in death. Despite everything, Harry nearly smiled. That sounds like Sirius would have liked hearing it. Mr. Black added a note for you, Bragnock said. The words struck like a hand closing around Harry's throat. Bragnock lifted a sealed envelope from the table. This seal was not Gringotts. It was black wax pressed with a dog's paw. Harry stared at it for a long time before taking it. His hands shook as he broke the seal. The handwriting inside was messy, impatient, and painfully alive. Harry, if you're reading this, then I've either done something heroic, something stupid, or both. Knowing me, probably both. Harry pressed his lips together. The words blurred again. He forced himself to continue. I don't know what they'll tell you. I don't know who will try to steer you after I'm gone. Remus will mean well. Dumbledore will mean more than he says. Molly will try to love you so hard you can't breathe. Listen to them if you want. Don't if you can't. But remember this, pup. You are not a chess piece. James forgot that sometimes when we were young and trying to prove we were clever. I forgot it in Azkaban because there was nothing else to be, but you don't have to forget. You cannot lose a game you refuse to play. That doesn't mean running forever. It means choosing the ground before anyone else chooses it for you. Whatever I had is yours. Not because of blood, because I chose you, because James and Lily chose you, because you should have had a house full of people who chose you every day. I'm sorry I couldn't give you that. Serious. Harry read the letter once, then again. By the third time, he was not sure whether the ache in his chest was grief or anger. Maybe they had become the same thing. He folded the letter carefully and put it inside his jacket. Bragnock waited until Harry looked up. "There are personal effects," the goblin said. "Black family assets, liquid vault holdings, certain disputed items, Grimold Place." Harry flinched at the name, that house of dark walls and darker memories, Sirius trapped inside it. Sirius pacing like a caged animal, Sirius laughing too loudly because the walls were listening. Bragnock turned a page. "And the Potter estate?" Harry went still. "My parents' vault?" "Your parents' vault is a small portion of the Potter estate." Harry stared at him. Bragnock looked down through a pair of narrow spectacles. "It appears you have not received a full accounting." "No," Harry said slowly, "I haven't." Unsurprising, the word was flat, but there was an edge beneath it. Bragnock pulled another ledger forward. This one was older than the first. Its brass corners were dark with age, and the Potter crest stamped across the cover had nearly worn away. Harry had seen that crest only once before, on the outside of his vault, a stag, not proud and decorative like old pureblood symbols often looked, but alert, ready to move. Bragnock opened the book. Potter family holdings include Vault 687, personal accounts, trust funds, educational investments, residual patents, historical artifact storage. 2 minor properties leased under false Muggle names, 1 destroyed property in Godric's Hollow, and 1 dormant ancestral residence. Harry leaned forward. "Ancestral residence?" Bragnock's finger stopped on a line written in faded red ink. "Potter Manor." The room seemed to quiet around the words. Harry waited for some memory to answer them. Nothing came. He had never heard of it. Not from Hagrid, not from Dumbledore, not from Sirius, not from Remus. No one had ever said the Potters had a manor. "Where is it?" Harry asked. Bragnock's eyes lifted. "That is complicated. Everything is complicated. Not like this." The goblin turned the ledger so Harry could see. Most of the page was normal enough. Dates, signatures, property boundaries, maintenance deposits. But the entry for Potter Manor had been slashed through with a thick black line. Beside it was a seal Harry recognized and did not recognize at the same time. A phoenix, Dumbledore. Harry's blood went cold. "What is that?" "A guardian seal." "Whose?" Bragnock tapped the page. "Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, filed in his capacity as magical guardian of Harry James Potter, last acknowledged Potter heir." The words did not make sense at first. Or maybe they made too much sense. Harry looked at the seal until the phoenix blurred into a smear of red-black wax. "He sealed my house." "He sealed your access to it." "Why?" "That is not recorded." Harry laughed once. It sounded wrong in the stone room. "Of course it isn't." Bragnock watched him with bright, unreadable eyes. "The seal was placed shortly after your parents' deaths. It did not transfer ownership. It did not dissolve inheritance. It did not grant Headmaster Dumbledore any right to sell, occupy, or alter the estate. But it stopped me from knowing about it. It prevented estate notification from reaching you until a challengeable adult claim or secondary inheritance forced a full review." "Serious?" Harry said. "Yes." Harry sat back. The room felt colder than before. A house. His parents had left him a house, not a cupboard. Not Dudley's second bedroom. Not a bed behind bars in the summer. Not a place where Aunt Petunia flinched whenever he said his mother's name. A house. And Dumbledore had known, Dumbledore, who had stood in the wreckage of Harry's life and decided where he should grow up. Dumbledore, who had explained blood wards and protection and sacrifice. Dumbledore, who had watched Harry return to Privet Drive again and again. Dumbledore, who had said, with tired eyes and heavy sorrow, that he had cared too much. Harry gripped the edge of the table. "What kind of house is it?" Bragnock closed the ledger halfway. "A dangerous one." Harry looked at him. "Dangerous how?" "Not because it attacks, because it refuses." "Refuses what?" "Notice, entry, memory, location, obligation." Bragnock's smile sharpened. "Potter Manor is one of the oldest blood-keyed concealment estates in Britain. It is not merely unplottable. It is self-erasing from unpermitted minds. To anyone not permitted by Potter blood or Potter binding, the manor is not hidden." He paused. "It is unthinkable." Harry felt the words settle over him. Unthinkable. not invisible under a cloak, not locked behind a gate, not depending on someone else to keep a secret. A place no one could even look for unless the house allowed them to know it existed. Could Voldemort find it? Harry asked. Bragnock did not flinch at the name. No. Could the Ministry? No. Could Dumbledore? Bragnock's eyes glittered. Not unless previously keyed. The Guardian Seal allowed administrative suppression of your access. It did not grant him perception rights. Harry stared at the Potter ledger. A place Dumbledore could not find, a place Voldemort could not reach, a place outside the map, a place outside the game. Sirius's letter seemed to burn inside Harry's jacket. You cannot lose a game you refuse to play. Harry's voice was quiet when he spoke. How do I claim it? Bragnock opened the black dragonhide book. The pages were blank. Blood. This time Harry did not hesitate when the goblin offered the knife. The cut was small, clean, and quick. A bead of red welled on his thumb. Bragnock guided his hand above the blank page. State your name. Harry James Potter. State your claim. Harry looked at the empty page. His throat tightened. For 15 years, his name had belonged to other people's stories. The boy who lived, the weapon, the savior, the liar, the prophecy child, the orphan, the burden. Harry pressed his bleeding thumb to the page. I claim what my parents left me. The book drank the blood. Red lines spidered outward across the blank parchment. Not ink. Light. It spread in twisting branches, forming letters, shapes, names, and one deep mark in the middle that looked like a hearth flame drawn inside a circle. The room hummed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but Harry felt it in his bones. Something very far away had opened one eye. Bragnock nodded once. The Guardian Seal is now contested by Bloodright. Contested, Harry repeated. Not broken. Bloodright must meet threshold. The Manor will decide. That's helpful. The Manor is older than helpful. Harry almost laughed again. This time it came closer to sounding real. Bragnock handed him a folded map. It was blank. Harry turned it over, still blank. What am I supposed to do with this? Walk. Where? When you are ready to go, the map will decide whether to remember. Harry frowned. Does Gringotts know where the Manor is? No. Then how do you have it listed? Goblins do not need to know where a thing is to know who owns it. That sounded exactly like the kind of sentence Hermione would want explained and Ron would want ignored. Harry's chest tightened at the thought of them. Ron and Hermione, the Weasleys, the Order. Everyone still outside, everyone still on the board. He looked down at the blank map. Can I bring people there? Bragnock's expression changed, just slightly. Not without cost. Harry waited. The Manor is not a school trunk. It is not a tent. It is not a hiding spell to be cast over your friends. Each person allowed beyond its wards must be keyed deliberately by a Potter blood binding. Once keyed, they may perceive the Manor, enter it, remember it, and betray it, Harry said. Yes. The honest answer landed harder than reassurance would have. Can someone force their way in? No. Can someone force me to key them? No binding made under compulsion will hold. Harry released a breath. And if I stay there, you will not be found. The words should have made him feel safe. They did. That was what frightened him. Bragnock closed the ledger. There is another matter. Harry looked up. Sirius Black's estate gives you standing to challenge the seal immediately, but once you step onto Potter land and the Manor accepts you, the seal will not merely be challenged. It will become irrelevant. Meaning Headmaster Dumbledore will know he has lost administrative control. Harry's fingers tightened around the blank map. Good. Bragnock's eyes sharpened. Be careful, Mr. Potter. There is a difference between freedom and isolation. Humans often mistake one for the other. Harry wanted to snap back. He wanted to say he knew the difference, but the words died before reaching his mouth. Because he had spent 10 years in a cupboard. Because Hogwarts had been freedom until he learned how many secrets had been built beneath his feet. Because Grimmauld Place had been a prison with a family name on the door. Because Sirius had wanted out so badly that one false vision had been enough to pull Harry into the Department of Mysteries. Harry folded the blank map and slipped it into his pocket. I'll take my chances. Bragnock nodded as if that was exactly what he had expected. The return to the surface was a blur of tunnels, carts, iron gates, and goblin whispers. By the time Harry emerged from Gringotts into Diagon Alley, the sky above London had turned the color of old steel. He expected to feel exposed. He did. Every shadow seemed too long. Every passerby seemed worth watching. A witch in emerald robes paused too near a shop window, and Harry's hand twitched toward his wand. A wizard laughed behind him, and for half a second Harry heard Bellatrix Lestrange's voice instead. Voldemort was back. The Ministry knew it now, the world knew it, and Harry Potter, according to every adult who had ever looked at him with grave eyes, was supposed to stand in the middle of it all and wait until destiny decided what to do with him. He took out the blank map. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a thin red line appeared across the parchment. It did not show streets. It did not show buildings. It showed a path. Harry followed. Diagon Alley twisted behind him. The leaky cauldron came and went. Muggle London swallowed him in noise and rain-slick pavement. Cars hissed by. People hurried under umbrellas. No one looked at him twice. The red line kept moving. It led him through streets he did not know, then into a narrow lane squeezed between two old brick buildings. At the end of the lane stood a wall covered in ivy. The map folded itself in his hand. A single word appeared, bleed. Harry stared at it. "Of course," he muttered. He pressed his thumb, still marked from the cut at Gringotts, against the ivy. For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the world forgot the wall. That was the only way Harry could describe it. The ivy did not move aside. The bricks did not vanish. No doorway appeared with a creak of ancient hinges. Instead, Harry's mind shifted, as if a thought had been sitting behind another thought all along. There had always been a gate there, tall, black, and wrought with the shape of antlers. Harry stood very still. Beyond the gate, a long drive curved through grounds drowned in summer green. Trees arched overhead, old and watchful. At the far end, half veiled by mist and distance, stood a house. Not a castle, not like Hogwarts, not grim and narrow like number 12, Grimold Place. Potter Manor was wide, old, and quiet. Built of pale stone darkened by rain, with steep roofs, tall windows, and chimneys that rose like sentries against the sky. Ivy climbed one side of the house, but it did not look abandoned. It looked patient, waiting. Harry pushed the gate. It opened soundlessly. The moment he stepped through, something snapped behind him, not like a trap, like a string cut. Harry spun around. The lane was gone. London was gone. The wall, the noise, the passing cars, all of it had vanished behind a curtain of green shadow. Only the gate remained, and beyond it, a road that seemed to lead nowhere in particular. His scar, which had been aching dully all day, went silent. So did something else. Harry did not realize what until he looked down at his hand. The faint tension he always carried when he held his wand outside school, the fear of the trace, of ministry letters, of warnings and watchers, had vanished. No eyes, no strings, no map, no one knew where he was. The realization hit so hard he had to grip the gate. For the first time since he could remember, Harry Potter was not located. The feeling was dizzying. It was wonderful. It was terrible. He walked up the drive slowly. The grounds were overgrown, but not wild. Flower beds slept under weeds. A dry fountain stood in the middle of a circular path. Its stone stag cracked at one antler. Birds watched from the trees, but made no sound. The front door was enormous, dark oak banded in iron. There was no handle, only a shallow hollow in the wood shaped like a hand. Harry placed his palm there. The door opened. Warm air breathed out, not dusty as he expected. Old. There was a difference. The entrance hall beyond was dim, with a high ceiling and a floor of black and white stone. Dust sheets covered furniture along the walls. Portrait frames hung empty, their canvases turned dark with sleep. A staircase rose at the far end, splitting left and right beneath a stained glass window showing a stag beneath a red sun. Harry stepped inside. The door closed behind him. The sound echoed through the house. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the house woke, not all at once. A lamp flared softly on a side table, then another, then another. Light moved down the hall like someone walking ahead of him with a candle. The dust sheets shifted, not flying away but settling more neatly, as if embarrassed to have been caught untidy. Somewhere deep in the house, pipes groaned. A clock began ticking. A fire coughed once in a distant room. Harry stood frozen. "Hello," he called. His voice sounded small. The house answered with silence, but it was not empty silence. It was listening. Harry moved forward. On the left was a drawing room. On the right, a library. He stopped there, staring. The library rose 2 floors high. Shelves climbed the walls from floor to ceiling. Rolling ladders stood waiting along brass rails. A great desk sat near a cold fireplace, and above it hung a portrait covered by a black cloth. Harry's fingers twitched. He did not lift the cloth, not yet. He was not ready to meet painted versions of people who might look at him with his father's eyes. Instead, he followed the lights deeper into the manor, past a dining room with a table long enough for a family he had never known, past a music room where a covered piano stood silent, past a corridor lined with doors, each marked by small brass plates: morning room, still room, map room, West Armory. Harry stopped at that one, then kept walking. He did not need weapons. That was not why he was here. The lights led him to a round room at the heart of the house. The moment Harry entered, the air changed. This room was warmer than the others. Its walls were made of smooth, dark stone, and the ceiling above was open to a shaft of chimney hidden somewhere in the house's bones. In the center of the room stood a hearth big enough for a giant to sit in. No fire burned there. Instead, a single stone lay beneath the grate. It was black, oval, and polished smooth by centuries of hands, the hearthstone. Harry knew the word without being told. A shallow bowl rested before it. Beside the bowl lay a small silver knife. Harry sighed. "Really?" The house did not answer. He picked up the knife. His thumb had already been cut twice that day. A third time seemed almost rude. Still, he pressed the blade lightly against the skin and let one fresh drop fall into the bowl. The hearthstone drank it. Fire exploded upward. Harry stumbled back. The flames were not red or orange. They were gold. Not bright like sunlight, but deep, warm, old gold, the color of a memory someone had kept safe for a very long time. The fire did not roar. It breathed. Letters appeared across the face of the hearthstone, not carved, written in light. Harry James Potter. The words brightened. The whole room shivered. Then other names began to appear, not as bright as his. Some were faint as smoke. Linfred Potter, Hardwin Potter, Ilanth Potter, names Harry did not know, names that belonged to people whose blood had somehow become his. They drifted across the stone and settled into rings, old light around new. Then 2 names appeared side by side, dimmer than Harry's but clearer than the ancient ones. James Fleamont Potter, Lily J. Potter. Harry stopped breathing. He sank slowly to his knees. The names did not move. They did not speak. They did not become ghosts or portraits or comforting visions. They were only names, but they were here, not in a graveyard, not in a story someone else told him, here in their house, in his house. Harry reached out but stopped before touching the stone. "I'm here," he whispered. The fire warmed his face. For one foolish second, he wanted the house to answer in his mother's voice. It did not. That hurt. Then another name kindled, Sirius Orion Black. Harry's chest cracked open. The name burned not gold, not red, but silver-white, bright at the edges and shadowed in the center. A person deliberately keyed, not Potter blood, Potter choice. James had brought Sirius here, or Lily had, or both. Harry bowed his head. "You were here," he said. The thought nearly undid him. Sirius had known this place. Sirius had walked these halls. Maybe laughed in that drawing room. Maybe slept upstairs. Maybe stood in this very room beside James, swearing some ridiculous oath with a grin on his face and no idea how much it would matter one day. Why had he never told Harry? The answer came cold and simple. Because Sirius had been trapped too. Azkaban, Grimmauld Place, Dumbledore's plans. Old secrets had cages of their own. Harry wiped his face with the heel of his hand and forced himself to look at the stone again. The fire pulsed. A new line formed beneath Sirius's name. For a moment Harry thought it would be Remus. His heart leapt painfully, but the letters twisted into something else. A name burned into the hearthstone in thin, sickly gold. Alive bright, not old, not dead, not memory. Harry stared. His stomach turned to ice. Peter Pettigrew. The fire snapped low. Somewhere in the silent manor, a clock struck once. Harry remained on his knees before the hearthstone, unable to move, unable to look away from the name of the man who had betrayed his parents. The man who had helped Voldemort return, the man who should never, ever have been able to find him. But the hearthstone did not lie. James Potter had trusted Peter once, and Potter Manor remembered. For the first time since stepping through the gate, Harry understood. This house was not just freedom, it was history, and history had teeth. The golden fire flickered over Peter Pettigrew's living name. Harry closed his hand around Sirius's letter inside his jacket. No one in the world knew where he was, except maybe the one person who should not. And deep within the house that wasn't there, the cage door closed a little tighter. Peter Pettigrew's name burned in the hearthstone like a sickness. Harry knelt before it long after the golden fire had lowered into a quiet glow. The round chamber at the heart of Potter Manor remained warm, but the warmth no longer felt comforting. It felt watchful. Every ancient stone around him seemed to be waiting to see what he would do with the knowledge. Peter had been here. Peter had been trusted. Peter had been allowed past the wards. Harry stared until his eyes hurt. The name did not vanish. It flickered faintly beneath the older Potter names, thinner than James's, colder than Sirius's, but alive. Alive in the way rot was alive beneath a floorboard. Alive in the way something hidden could still move. Harry stood too quickly and nearly stumbled. "No," he said into the room. The fire shifted. "No," Harry repeated, louder this time. "He doesn't get to have this. He doesn't get my parents. He doesn't get Sirius, and he doesn't get this house." The hearthstone gave no answer. Harry had learned that magic often did not care whether he was angry. That made him angrier. He reached for the silver knife lying beside the bowl. His first thought was not especially clever. Cut his palm again, bleed onto the stone, order it to remove Peter. Burn the name away. Make the house understand that some mistakes should not be remembered. But the moment his fingers closed around the knife, the gold fire dimmed, not much, just enough. Harry stopped. A pressure settled over the room, not threatening, warning. He looked at the hearthstone, then at the knife in his hand. "You won't let me," the fire breathed. Harry did not know how he understood the answer. It was not spoken into his mind. It was not written in letters. It simply arrived, old and certain. The ledger recorded blood. It did not lie about it. Peter Pettigrew had been keyed once. The house remembered. The house could not pretend he had not been. It could not rewrite trust after the betrayal because the trust had been real when it was given. Harry lowered the knife. His stomach twisted. That somehow hurt worse. James had trusted Peter. Sirius had trusted Peter. Remus had trusted Peter. They had brought him into their secrets, into their jokes, into their war, into this house, and Peter had sold them anyway. Harry's hand shook. "Can he come here?" he asked. The room remained silent, but this time the hearthstone shifted. Peter's name flickered again, and for a moment Harry saw thin, dark threads coiled around the letters like smoke. Then another line formed beneath it, not a name but a judgment, bound by invitation, withered by betrayal. Remembered, not welcomed. Harry read the words twice. His breath came out slowly. Remembered, not welcomed. So Peter's name was not a door, not anymore, but it was not nothing either. Could he remember the manor existed? Could he lead someone close to it? Could Voldemort pull the memory from him? Could Dumbledore? Could Peter himself understand enough to use it? Harry hated that every answer raised another question. That was how adults had always kept control. They knew more. They told him less. They let him stand in the dark, then acted disappointed when he tripped. Not here. Harry turned away from the hearthstone. The manor had secrets, but it was his. If it would not speak plainly, he would force himself to learn its language. He spent the first night walking, not sleeping, not crying, walking. Potter Manor was larger than it had looked from the outside. Its corridors folded around courtyards and galleries, around rooms whose purposes Harry could only guess from names etched into brass plates. The house had a library, a map room, a portrait hall, a conservatory where dead vines clung to glass panes, 3 staircases that seemed to change direction when he was not looking, and a kitchen that lit itself when he entered but produced no food. That, at least, was a problem he understood. By midnight, he found a pantry stocked with sealed jars and tins. Most looked ancient, but magic had kept them edible. Harry made himself tea badly, toast worse, and sat alone at a long kitchen table meant for far more people than one. The silence joined him. At Privet Drive, silence had been full of threat. Here, it was full of absence. Harry stared at the chair across from him and imagined Sirius sitting there, boots on the table, grinning because he had found some way to annoy every respectable Potter portrait in the house. The image was so clear that Harry had to look away. He slept sometime before dawn in a bedroom the manor chose for him. He knew it chose because he had opened 6 doors before one room warmed as he entered. The others remained cool and still, like politely closed mouths. This one had a bed with green hangings, a writing desk by the window, and a wardrobe containing clothes that changed size when he touched them. On the bedside table sat a framed photograph. James Potter stood in the front garden, one arm thrown around Lily's shoulders. Lily was laughing at whoever held the camera. Sirius crouched in front of them in dog form, tongue lolling, while Remus sat on the fountain edge pretending not to smile. Peter stood at the side, small and nervous-looking, half cut out of the frame. Harry almost threw the photograph across the room. Instead, he turned it face down. Then he lay on the bed, fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling until exhaustion dragged him under. When he woke, for one wild moment he did not know where he was. The ceiling above him was painted with faded stars. Not Dudley's second bedroom. Not the Gryffindor dormitory, not Grimmauld Place, his house. Harry sat up, morning light spilled through the window. The grounds below were washed clean and green, mist clinging to the trees beyond the drive. No cars, no neighbors, no Aunt Petunia hammering on the door. No Uncle Vernon shouting through breakfast, no one. The peace should have felt like victory. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Harry dressed and returned to the hearthstone. The fire was still burning. His name remained brightest. James and Lily glowed steadily beneath the older lines. Sirius's name shimmered like a silver star. Peter sat lower, sickly and thin. Harry folded his arms. "I need rules," he said. The house did not answer. "I'm serious. I'm not doing this again. I'm not being kept ignorant in my own home." The gold fire bent sharply to the left. Harry frowned. A line of flame stretched across the stone floor and pointed toward the door. It wanted him to go somewhere. "Fine," Harry muttered. "But if this leads to another knife, I'm complaining." The line led him through the hall, up the main staircase, across a gallery of sleeping portraits, and into the library. In daylight, the room was even more overwhelming. Rows and rows of books climbed into shadow. The smell of old paper and polished wood filled the air. A tall window overlooked the garden. Dust floated in the sunlight like tiny sparks. On the great desk lay a book that had not been there yesterday. It was bound in dark red leather. There was no title on the cover. Harry opened it. The first page was blank. Then words formed. "The heir's ledger does not explain itself to strangers." Harry stared. "I'm not a stranger." More words appeared. Then read as heir, not as guest. The page turned by itself. Harry leaned over the desk. The writing that appeared next was old-fashioned but clear. First law, the manor perceives through Potter blood. A Potter by blood may find, enter, and anchor the house. Others may be admitted only by deliberate blood binding, freely given and freely received. Harry swallowed. That matched what Bragnock had said. The words continued. Second law, the manor withdraws from unpermitted minds. It is not hidden from them. It is absent. The eye passes over the gate. The thought fails to form. The memory closes before it opens. Harry thought of Voldemort searching for him and finding nothing. He thought of ministry owls circling empty sky. He thought of Dumbledore standing in some road, perhaps only feet from the gate, unable to remember why he had come. Something fierce and satisfied moved inside him. Then the next line appeared. Third law, what is within cannot be seen from without. No scrying, no tracing, no naming, no distant mind reach may pass the boundary. Harry's scar prickled faintly, then went quiet again. "No Voldemort dreams," he whispered. The page did not react to the name. Harry noticed that. Outside, saying Voldemort's name had always felt like dropping a stone into dark water and waiting to see what rose. Here, nothing rose. He said it again, softer. Voldemort. The library remained still, no pain in his scar, no cold thought brushing his, no sense of being heard. Harry breathed in, then out. For years, people had flinched when he said that name. Fear of a sound, fear of a shadow, fear so old it had become habit. But inside Potter Manor the name had no teeth. Harry, read on, fourth law, what is within may receive, it may not reach. The manor accepts letters, mirrors, bound messengers, and keyed channels. It sends nothing across the boundary by its own will. Walls protect by standing still. Harry frowned. That means I can watch. The book did not answer. But I can't act. The page turned. Fifth law, the threshold is absolute. Step beyond the warded ground and all concealment ends. Name, trace, blood, magic, and mind return to the world's notice. Harry's satisfaction cooled. He imagined stepping through the gate and every invisible thread snapping back onto him. Ministry, Voldemort, Dumbledore, Death Eaters. Everyone who had been looking. The manor was safety. The gate was exposure. The next line formed more slowly. Sixth law, the anchor sustains the concealment. The manor feeds on the living magic of the Potter heir. If the anchor dies without a keyed heir or blood successor, the ledger closes, the hearthstone darkens, and the wards fall. Harry went very still. Feeds, he said. The word looked harmless on the page. It was not. He read the sentence again. The manor fed on him, not like a monster. Not like a dementor, but it used him, his blood, his magic, his life. Harry backed away from the desk. No, he said. The book waited. No one mentioned that part. The words remained where they were. Harry thought of Bragnoc's warning. There is a difference between freedom and isolation. He thought of Dumbledore sealing the manor. Had Dumbledore known this? Of course he had. Harry's anger leapt up at once, grateful for somewhere to go. Dumbledore had known enough to keep the manor from him. Dumbledore had known enough to send him to Privet Drive instead. Dumbledore had known enough to decide, again, always. But beneath the anger was something colder. If Harry died here, the wards fell. If he brought people here and then died, the people he sheltered would be exposed. The house was not only a hiding place. It was a promise he had to survive long enough to keep. Harry returned to the desk and forced himself to read the last line on the page. The manor is not a weapon. It is a boundary. Do not mistake the two. He let out a bitter laugh. Brilliant. The book closed itself. Harry stood alone in the library, surrounded by more knowledge than he could ever read and more silence than he knew what to do with. For the next 2 days, Harry tested the rules. Carefully at first, then obsessively. He tried writing to Ron. The letter folded itself politely on his desk and refused to leave. He attached a note to Hedwig's leg. Hedwig flew as far as the window, then turned around and gave him a look of deep owl irritation. Sorry, Harry said. She nipped his finger. He tried using his wand to send sparks past the gate. The spell vanished at the threshold like a candle pinched between fingers. He stood inside the front gate and watched a muggle postman walk down the lane beyond the ivy wall. The man's eyes slid over the gate, not away from it, over it, as if the shape of it could not settle in his mind. Harry stepped 1 foot beyond the gate. Instantly, the world slammed back. His scar pulsed. A faint pressure touched the back of his neck. Far away, something seemed to notice him. Harry jerked his foot back onto Potterland. The pressure vanished. He stood there shaking, one hand on the gate. The lesson was simple. Inside, he was untouchable. Outside, he was Harry Potter again. That afternoon, a letter appeared at the boundary. Harry saw it from the drawing-room window. A white envelope lay just beyond the gate, resting on the road as if someone had placed it there carefully and walked away. It had not crossed the threshold. The manor would not allow it in. But it was visible. Harry knew the handwriting before he reached the gate. Long, elegant, slightly slanted. Professor Dumbledore, for a minute, Harry only stared. The envelope sat outside the ward line, harmless and patient. That somehow made it worse. Dumbledore had always been patient. Patient enough to wait until the end of the year to tell Harry why he had suffered. patient enough to watch events unfold from a distance, patient enough to believe that secrets became kinder if revealed after the damage was done. Harry did not step through the gate. He crouched just inside it and reached toward the letter. His fingers stopped at the boundary. He could not reach it without leaving, of course. Harry almost laughed. Even Dumbledore's letter was a choice, safety or answer. He picked up a stick from inside the gate and tried to drag the envelope across. The stick crossed the threshold. The moment it did, Harry felt the outside world catch at the tip like a hook in cloth. He pulled the stick back quickly. The letter did not move. "Fine," he muttered. He stood there for a long time, then he did the sensible thing. He went to the library. It took 3 hours and a lot of swearing, but he found a charm in one of the household books that allowed an heir to view objects at the boundary without admitting them. It was not a spell so much as a request to the manor. Harry returned to the gate with a small silver hand mirror from the upstairs dressing room. He held it toward the envelope and spoke the words carefully. The mirror fogged. Then Dumbledore's letter appeared across its surface, reversed at first, then turning clear. "Dear Harry, I will not insult you by asking whether you are safe. I suspect you are safer than any of us can presently reach." Harry's jaw tightened. "Gringotts has informed me that certain estate proceedings have been activated. You have discovered something I once hoped to explain to you under calmer circumstances." Harry snorted. "Calmer than serious dying," the letter continued. "I know you are angry with me. You have every right to be. I have made choices on your behalf. Some were necessary. Some were arrogant. Some were both." Harry's fingers tightened around the mirror. That was the trouble with Dumbledore. He did not lie like most people. He gave you enough truth to make the hidden part feel heavier. Potter Manor is powerful old magic. It can protect you from Voldemort in ways few places can. But protection is not always the same as safety. A fortress can become a tomb if the person inside forgets the world still burns beyond the wall. Harry's mouth went dry. Dumbledore knew maybe not everything, but enough. "Please understand this. Voldemort will not stop because you are beyond his immediate reach. He will widen the circle. He will seek those you love. He will hurt them not because they matter to him, but because they matter to you." Harry looked away from the mirror. The lane beyond the gate was empty. Quiet, peaceful, a place outside the world. "I ask only that you speak with me. Not as a student summoned to a headmaster's office. Not as a boy to be managed. As someone whose choices now carry great consequence." The final line appeared slowly. "You cannot escape the prophecy by escaping me." Harry lowered the mirror for a moment. He could not move. Then he threw the mirror across the grass. It landed without breaking. Of course it did. Harry turned and walked back toward the house, each step harder than the last. Inside, the manor welcomed him with warm lamps and clean silence. He hated it for that, because Dumbledore was right about one thing. The world still existed. Ron still existed. Hermione still existed. Ginny, Neville, Luna, Remus, Tonks, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, all of them still out there, all of them reachable by the monster who could not reach Harry. Harry had wanted to leave the board, but his friends were still standing on it. That evening, a Gringotts box arrived. It appeared on the library desk with a soft crack, sealed in black wax and marked with Sirius's name. Harry stared at it for nearly 10 minutes before opening it. Inside were personal effects, not many, a watch with a cracked face, a ring bearing the black crest, wrapped in a note from Bragnock stating it was cursed and should not be worn, a photograph of the marauders in school robes, a motorbike key, a folded scrap of parchment covered in swear words directed at several members of the Black family, and at the bottom, wrapped in velvet, was a small rectangular mirror. Harry's heart stopped. He knew it immediately. Sirius's two-way mirror. Not the broken one Harry had thrown into his trunk after finding it too late. This was the other half, Sirius's half. Harry lifted it with both hands. For a while, he could only stare at his own face reflected in the glass. He looked awful, thin, pale, older than 16 in the eyes and younger everywhere else. A note was tucked beneath the velvet. Harry unfolded it. "Mr. Potter, This object was held in Sirius Black's personal vault, not at Grimmauld Place. It is paired to an object currently registered among your school effects. Paired communication mirrors predate many modern tracing charms. Within your family wards, such an object may function as a keyed channel if ritually accepted by the Hearthstone. Use with caution. Senior Estate Clerk Bragnock. Harry looked at the mirror again. His chest hurt. All year, Sirius had had a way for Harry to reach him. A way Harry had forgotten until after it was too late. Now the mirror had returned, late again, always late. Harry carried it to the hearthstone. The golden fire brightened as he entered. "I want to use this," he said. The hearthstone burned steadily. "I want to talk to someone outside." Still nothing. Harry took the knife and cut his thumb before he could think better of it. One drop into the bowl. One drop on the mirror's edge. The glass warmed. Words appeared in the air above the fire. Channel accepted. Bound to air. Far glass unkeyed. Harry frowned. So whoever has the other mirror can talk to me, only if named and opened by trust. That's not clear. The fire did not care. Harry sat on the floor before the hearth, the mirror in his lap. He knew where the other piece was, in his trunk. Back at Privet Drive, unless the order had already moved it. Or perhaps packed among his things from school. He had not looked. He had not wanted to see it. But paired mirrors wanted their halves. When Harry spoke the charm Bragnock's note described, the glass clouded. For a second he saw the inside of his school trunk, dark and cramped. Then the image shifted. A jagged shard of mirror lay between old socks and a broken quill. The shard trembled. The next morning the shard was on his desk. Harry had not summoned it. The manor had not sent anything out. But the paired mirror had called its own reflection home. Harry decided not to think too hard about it. He spent half the day repairing the far glass as best he could. Reparo worked inside the manor, though the spell felt softer here, less like a command and more like a suggestion. The mirror did not become perfect. A crack remained across one corner like a silver scar. Harry had two mirrors now, one that stayed with him, one that could be given away. The thought terrified him, because giving it away meant choosing, not just who he wanted to talk to, who he trusted enough to let near the only path sound could take through the wall. That night, Harry made a list. Ron, Hermione, Remus, Mrs. Weasley, Dumbledore. He crossed Dumbledore out so hard the quill tore the parchment. Remus made his chest hurt. He trusted Remus, but Remus was order. Remus might tell Dumbledore, not out of betrayal, but because he believed adults should know dangerous things. Mrs. Weasley would love him. She would also tell everyone within 5 minutes if she thought it would keep him alive. Ron was his first friend. Ron would come if Harry asked. That was exactly why Harry could not ask first. Ron would run straight through a war for him. He would bring the twins, Ginny, maybe half the family, and the manor would stop being hidden before Harry understood what hiding meant. Hermione would ask questions. Hermione would argue. Hermione would be furious. Hermione would read the rules before touching the gate. Harry put the quill down. Choosing Hermione first felt like betraying Ron for about 5 seconds. Then it felt like trying not to get Ron killed. He carried the repaired far mirror to the hearthstone. How do I key someone? The fire brightened, words formed, blood freely given. Name freely spoken, threshold freely crossed. Can it be done from a distance? The fire dimmed. Harry swore softly. Of course not. He would have to leave, or bring her to the boundary somehow. That meant exposure. That meant risk. Harry almost put the mirror away, almost. Then he remembered Dumbledore's letter. He will seek those you love. Harry did not know how long he could hide before Voldemort started looking sideways. Maybe he already had. The next day, Harry stepped outside Potter Manor for the first real time since claiming it. He prepared like he was going into battle, though he had no plan to fight anyone. Cloak, wand, map. A note to the hearthstone, which was stupid because the house could not read notes, and even if it could, he had written only, "If I don't come back, I'm sorry." The gate opened. Harry stood at the threshold and breathed inside. Silence, warmth, concealment. Outside, noise, danger, the world. He stepped through. The effect was immediate. His scar pulsed, not with pain exactly, but recognition. The old invisible threads snapped back around him. For a horrible second, Harry felt like a candle uncovered in a dark room. Somewhere something might look. He moved quickly. The blank map showed a red line leading not to Privet Drive, but to a small village road near Ottery St. Catchpole. Harry did not question how it knew. He had asked for Hermione. The map had chosen the nearest safe crossing point. Safe was generous. By dusk, Harry crouched behind a hedgerow overlooking a lane near the burrow. He could see the crooked outline of the Weasley house in the distance, warm lights glowing in its windows. The sight nearly broke him. Home, not his, not really, but close enough that the ache was familiar. He waited. The map had given him one line and one time. Hermione appeared at 8:30, walking with Ron and Ginny along the lane. Mrs. Weasley must have sent them to collect something from a neighbor, because Ron carried a basket and looked annoyed about it. Harry's heart jumped at the sight of them. Ron was taller than Harry remembered, all elbows and restless energy. Ginny walked with her wand hand free, eyes scanning the shadows in a way that made Harry proud and sad at once. Hermione had her hair tied back, her face serious even while Ron was clearly complaining. Harry almost stepped out. Then he stopped. If he called Ron too, everything changed. If he called all three, the risk tripled. If he called no one, he went back alone. Hermione turned her head suddenly, her eyes narrowed. Harry did not know whether she had seen movement or simply sensed him because she was Hermione and Hermione noticed things. He lifted one hand from behind the hedge, her face went white, then furious. She said something sharp to Ron and Ginny. Ron frowned. Ginny looked suspicious. Hermione shoved the basket into Ron's arms, pointed toward the burrow, and said something else that made Ron throw up his hands. A minute later, Hermione marched toward the hedge alone. Harry stood. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then Hermione slapped him, not hard enough to truly hurt. Hard enough to make a point. "Oh," Harry said, "you vanished," she hissed. "You vanished from Privet Drive. The Order is half mad. Ron is impossible. Dumbledore is being cryptic, which means guilty. And you are hiding in hedges." Harry rubbed his cheek. "It's good to see you too." Her eyes filled with tears. That was worse than the slap. Harry. The way she said his name nearly made him tell her everything in one breath. Instead, he held out the mirror. "I found somewhere," he said. "Somewhere safe, somewhere no one can find me." Hermione stared at the mirror, then at him. "No one, no one," her face sharpened. "Not even you know who?" "Not even Voldemort." She flinched, then glanced around. Harry did too. Nothing happened, not here, not yet, but they were outside the wards. Names mattered here. "We can't talk long," Harry said quickly. "I need you to listen. I can't bring everyone, I can't explain everything on the road, but I can key you in if you agree. It means you'll be able to find the place. Remember it. Come there, but it also means if someone gets the memory from you—" "Legilimency?" she asked at once. "Maybe, I don't know. The wards are old. They protect people inside, but outside," he swallowed. "Outside is still outside." Hermione looked toward the burrow. "Does Dumbledore know?" "He knows it exists. He kept it from me." Her expression changed, not surprise, anger. That helped. "What place is this?" "My parents' house," Harry said. Hermione went still. "Harry," he sealed it. "Dumbledore, after they died. The goblins found it because of Sirius's will." Hermione's eyes moved over his face, reading him the way she read books, carefully, completely, and with growing horror. "You've been alone there." Harry looked away. "It's better than Privet Drive." "That is not an answer. It's the only one I've got." For a moment, the lane was quiet except for crickets and distant voices from the burrow. Then Hermione held out her hand. "What do I have to do?" Harry stared at her. "You're not going to ask more questions first?" "I am going to ask hundreds of questions." Her voice shook, but her hand remained steady. "After you are not standing exposed in a lane during a war." Relief hit him so suddenly he almost laughed. Instead, he took the silver knife from his pocket. Hermione eyed it. "Blood magic?" "Old family ward magic." "That is not as reassuring as you think it is." "I know." "Does it hurt?" "A little." She held his gaze. "Will it force me to obey anything?" "No." "Will it make me unable to tell the truth if I choose?" "No, at least I don't think so. It just lets you find the place." "Harry, I wouldn't do it if I thought it controlled you." She searched his face, then nodded. Harry cut his thumb. Then, gently, Hermione's, they pressed the small wounds together. Harry spoke her name. Hermione Jean Granger. The air shifted, not dramatically, no light, no music, no thunder. But Hermione gasped. Her eyes went past Harry, past the hedge, past the lane. "Oh," she whispered. Harry turned. Far away, where there had been only darkness between two trees, the idea of a gate appeared, not the gate itself. Not from this distance, the thought of it. Hermione could think of Potter Manor now. That was enough. Harry handed her the cracked mirror. "This is the channel. Don't show anyone. Not Ron, not yet." Pain crossed her face. "Harry, I'll tell him, I will, but not until I understand this better. He is worried sick." "I know." "No, you don't." Her voice sharpened. "You think you do because you're worried too, but you don't see him. He keeps pretending he's angry because it's easier than admitting he's scared." Harry looked toward the burrow. His chest hurt. "I'm trying to keep him alive." "I know." Hermione closed her fingers around the mirror. "That's why I'm not shouting louder." A faint crack sounded behind them. Both of them froze. Harry grabbed Hermione's arm and pulled her down behind the hedge. Two dark shapes appeared at the far end of the lane, not close, but too sudden. Wizards. Their hoods were up despite the warm evening. Hermione's breath caught. Death Eaters? Maybe. The taller figure lifted his wand. A thin line of light moved across the road like a searching finger. Harry felt the world tighten around him. He was outside, visible, findable, stupid. Hermione gripped his sleeve. "You have to go. Come with me. Ron and Ginny are right there." The distant figures began moving toward the burrow. Harry's mind raced. If he ran to the manor, he lived. If he stayed, he might lead danger straight toward the Weasleys. If he fought, he would lose. Force was not the answer. He looked at Hermione. "The mirror," he whispered. "When you're safe, call me. Say my name into it. Only when you're alone." "Go," she whispered. Harry hated it, but he went. He ran low along the hedgerow, away from the burrow, away from the figures, away from his friends. Every step felt like cowardice wearing the mask of strategy. Behind him, Hermione stood and walked back toward the lane as if nothing had happened. Harry wanted to look back. He did not. The map burned warm in his pocket, dragging him toward the threshold. The world seemed too loud around him. Every branch crack was a wand. Every bird was a watcher. His scar pulsed once, then again. By the time he reached the hidden lane in London, his lungs burned and his side ached. The gate appeared the moment he thought of home. Harry stumbled through. The world snapped silent. He fell to his knees on the drive, gasping, safe. The word was bitter. He had left Hermione outside. He had left Ron outside. He had left Ginny outside. The manor's lamps glowed in the windows like welcome. Harry pushed himself up and walked inside. The hearthstone was waiting. A new name burned beneath his, Hermione Jean Granger. The letters were bright, not Potter gold. Something warmer, sharper, like candlelight over parchment. Harry touched the edge of the stone. "I chose right," he said, because he needed it to be true. The fire did not answer. Hours passed. Harry did not sleep. He sat in the library with Sirius's mirror in both hands, staring at his own reflection until his eyes burned. At midnight, the glass clouded. Harry nearly dropped it. Hermione's face appeared, pale and tense, lit by candlelight. "Harry, Hermione," he leaned forward. "Are you all right?" "Yes, I'm in Ginny's room. They didn't see you. I think they were watching the burrow from the far field, but they left when Dad and 2 order members arrived." Harry sagged with relief. "Good." "No, not good." Hermione's voice was low and fierce. "Harry, this is worse than we thought." "What happened?" "The Order knows you're gone. Dumbledore told them you are safe but unreachable. Ron almost exploded. Mrs. Weasley cried. Remus looks like someone carved him hollow." She swallowed. "And there are rumors, people disappearing. Muggle-born families being watched, ministry officials changing sides quietly." Harry closed his eyes. Dumbledore had been right. The world still burned. "What about Voldemort?" Hermione flinched again at the name. "Don't say it." "I can say it inside." "Inside where?" "My house." "That is one of the hundreds of questions." "I know." "Then answer one. Are you really safe?" Harry looked around the library, at the books, at the warm lamps, at the silence. "No one can find me here," he said. "That is not what I asked." Harry said nothing. Hermione's expression softened through the cracked glass. "Oh, Harry," he hated that 2 words could undo him. He looked down. "It feeds on me," he said. "What?" "The wards, the manor. I'm the anchor. If I die without an heir or something, the wards fall." Hermione went very still. "Harry, that is extremely important information." "I know." "No, I mean that changes everything. If people hide there and you die, they're exposed. And if you know who learns that, he doesn't know. You don't know that." Harry thought of Peter's name on the hearthstone. His silence must have shown on his face. Hermione narrowed her eyes. "What are you not telling me?" Harry told her about Peter. He told her about the name, the hearthstone, the judgment written beneath it. He told her Peter was remembered but not welcomed. He told her he did not know what that meant beyond the obvious fact that nothing in his life could ever simply be good. Hermione listened without interrupting. That was how Harry knew she was frightened. When he finished, she said, "You need records. Everything the manor will show you. Binding law. Fidelius comparisons, blood ward theory, anything about memory and betrayal. I'm in a library. That does not mean you know what to read." For the first time in days, Harry smiled faintly. "There she is." She glared at him. "Do not joke while surrounded by ancient blood magic." "I'll try." Her face softened again, then a sound came from her side of the mirror. A door opening, Hermione turned her head. "Ginny," she called. No answer. Harry sat up. "Hermione," she looked back at him. "I have to go. I'll call tomorrow if I can." "Hermione, wait." The mirror shook. A flash of green light reflected across her face. Not a killing curse. Something outside, something in the sky. Hermione ran to a window. The mirror caught only part of the room, part of her shoulder, a slice of dark glass beyond. Then Harry saw it. Through Hermione's window, high above the distant fields, a skull of green fire bloomed in the night. A serpent slid from its mouth. The dark mark. Hermione's face went white. Voices shouted behind her. The mirror tilted wildly. "Hermione," she grabbed it again. "Harry, they're not at the burrow." She said quickly, "It's the Lovegood Hill or near it. I can see." Another shout. This one closer, Ron's voice. Then Mrs. Weasley. Hermione looked torn between the mirror and the door. "I have to go." "No, stay inside." "I can't." "Hermione." She looked at him then, really looked, and for 1 second Harry saw the entire problem reflected in her eyes. He was safe. She was not. The glass went dark. Harry remained frozen in the library, gripping the mirror so hard his fingers hurt. The manor stood around him, warm and silent and impossible to enter. Outside, the people he loved ran toward fire. Harry lifted his head slowly. For the first time since coming to Potter Manor, he did not feel hidden. He felt trapped. Harry did not sleep after the mirror went dark. He sat in the library until the candles guttered low, Sirius's mirror clenched in both hands, staring at the black glass as if his will alone could drag Hermione's face back into it. Every few minutes he said her name. "Hermione." "Nothing." "Hermione, answer me." Only his own reflection looked back. The crack across the corner of the mirror split his face into 2 uneven halves. One eye looked frightened. The other looked furious. Neither looked useful. Outside, somewhere beyond the impossible walls of Potter Manor, the dark mark had burned over the hills near the burrow. Hermione had seen it. Ron had shouted. Molly Weasley had probably tried to stop everyone and failed because the Weasleys ran toward danger like other families ran from rain. Harry had done nothing. He had sat in a warm library behind wards older than most countries and watched the world catch fire through a rectangle of glass. By dawn, his throat hurt from calling. The manor remained calm around him. Lamps lit themselves when the sun rose behind the clouds. Somewhere far below, the kitchen woke with soft clinks of dishes. Rain tapped politely against the tall windows. The house seemed to believe morning mattered. Harry hated it. He wanted noise. He wanted alarms. He wanted the walls to shake and portraits to scream and the hearthstone to spit warnings across the floor. Instead, Potter Manor gave him tea. A cup appeared on the library desk beside a plate of toast. Harry stared at it. "I don't want breakfast." The toast stayed where it was. He turned back to the mirror. "Hermione." The glass stayed dark. At 7:30, Harry stood so suddenly the chair scraped backward and toppled over. "I'm going." The words rang in the library. The manor did not answer. "I'm not sitting here." He marched out of the library, down the gallery, and toward the entrance hall. His wand was in his hand before he reached the stairs. He did not know what he planned to do. Go to the burrow, find Hermione, find Ron, find whoever had raised the mark, and what, duel them. Harry stopped halfway down the staircase. His breath came fast. The question landed harder because it came in his own voice, not Hermione's, not Dumbledore's, not the cold writing of the heir's ledger. What would he do outside the manor? He was 16. Skilled, yes. Brave when bravery meant not thinking too long. Lucky more often than he deserved. But Death Eaters did not become less deadly because Harry loved the people they threatened. Voldemort did not become less powerful because Harry was angry enough to shake. He could run out. He could be seen. He could be caught. Then everything the manor gave him would collapse into the same old pattern. Harry Potter rushing toward bait. Harry Potter proving exactly where to strike. Harry Potter arriving too late, like the Department of Mysteries. His hand tightened on the banister until his knuckles went white. Sirius's death was not only grief, it was instruction that made it worse. The front door stood below him, dark and silent, waiting. Harry took one step down, then another. The door did not open. Harry glared at it. I'm the heir. The door remained shut. I can leave if I want. A line of gold light appeared across the wood, not a lock. A word, want. Harry froze. The word burned softly for 3 seconds before fading. He almost shouted at the house. Almost threw a curse at the door. Almost proved once again that anger could move him faster than thought. Instead, he stood very still. Did he want to leave? Yes. No, he wanted to help. He wanted to stop feeling useless. He wanted not to be safe while everyone else was not. That was not the same as wanting to step blindly into a trap. Harry backed away from the door. The manor allowed silence to settle around him again. This time he let it. He returned to the library and righted the chair. The mirror still lay on the desk, dark and cracked. Beside it, the tea had gone cold. Harry picked up the cup and drank anyway. It tasted awful. That helped. At 8:13, the mirror flashed. Harry nearly dropped the cup. Hermione. The glass clouded, then cleared. Hermione's face appeared, pale, exhausted, and very much alive. Harry's whole body sagged with relief so sudden it hurt. You're alive. Yes, she said, then frowned. Obviously, you vanished. There was a dark mark, Harry. I know, I saw, through a mirror. I was slightly busy being outside. He almost smiled, but the expression fell apart. What happened? Hermione looked over her shoulder. Her background was not Ginny's room now. It looked like a pantry or storage cupboard, shelves crowded behind her, stacked with jars and folded linens. I only have a few minutes. Everyone is awake. Ron thinks I'm writing to my parents. Is everyone all right? Yes, mostly, she swallowed. The mark was over the Lovegood Hill, but it was a warning, not an attack on the house. Mr. Lovegood wasn't there. Luna is with relatives in Devon. No one was killed. The word killed entered the room like a cold draft. Harry gripped the mirror harder. Then why put up the mark? To make people run, Hermione said. To show they can. To spread panic. Maybe to test how fast the order responds, or to see if I would come. Hermione did not answer quickly enough. Harry looked away, so it started. It may have started before, and we didn't know how to read it. That sounded like Hermione. It also sounded like Dumbledore, which made Harry dislike it, despite knowing she was right. What is the order saying? They think you know who is trying to force movement. Dumbledore thinks. I don't care what Dumbledore thinks. Harry, no, her face tightened. I'm not saying you have to forgive him. I'm saying we need information, and unfortunately he often has some. Harry hated that too. What information? Hermione drew a breath. There are rumors of people being watched. Not just Order members, friends of yours, people from school, anyone connected to you through public events. Harry felt his stomach drop. Who? Neville's grandmother reported 2 men outside their lane. The twins had someone following them near Diagon Alley. Dad says the ministry has intercepted letters asking for your whereabouts. From who? Some were fake. Some were frightened parents. Some, Hermione hesitated, say it. Some were Death Eater families trying to make it sound like concern. Harry leaned back. The library shelves rose around him, packed with old knowledge and no comfort. They can't find me, he said. No, so they're drawing lines around everyone else. Yes. Harry stood and paced, mirror held in front of him. That's Voldemort's move. Hermione flinched, but less this time. Harry, please don't say his name when I'm on this side. Sorry. He was not sure whether he meant it. Inside the manor, the name was nothing. Outside, fear still clung to it. That difference bothered him in a way he could not yet explain. It felt important, like a loose thread in a sleeve. Hermione continued. Dumbledore also said the Ministry is preparing new security measures around known targets. Harry barked out a humorless laugh. The Ministry couldn't protect a teacup from being stolen if it was labeled dark artifact. I know, but appearances matter right now. Public fear is high. The prophet is running daily stories about sightings. The same prophet that called me unstable all last year. Yes, now they've decided you're tragic and noble. Brilliant, Harry. I know, not the point. She looked like she wanted to reach through the mirror and shake him. That, at least, felt normal. Listen to me carefully, Hermione said. The Death Eaters are not only hunting you, they are hunting the idea of reaching you. They want everyone afraid of being near anyone you care about. Harry stopped pacing. There it was, the shape of it, not one attack, not one trap. Pressure. If Voldemort could not put a hand through the wall, he would push on every person outside it until Harry opened the gate himself. Harry stared at the mirror. How do I stop that? Hermione's eyes softened. I don't know yet. Yet one small word, one impossible promise. A muffled voice called from somewhere near her. Hermione? Ron. Harry's chest tightened. Hermione turned her head. 1 minute, Hermione, Harry said quickly. Don't tell him yet. Her eyes flashed. I know. I will. I know, Harry. But she was angry, not because she disagreed with keeping the secret exactly, because every secret cost someone, and Hermione had always hated unpaid debts. Ron's voice came again, closer. You all right? Hermione lowered her voice. I have to go. I'll call tonight. Meanwhile, use the library. Find anything about blood-keyed wards and betrayal memories. Also anything about name magic. Name magic? You said his name doesn't matter inside the manor. That is unusual. Harry frowned. People say it all the time in books. That is not what I mean, and you know it. The pantry door creaked. Hermione's eyes widened. She shoved the mirror downward. The glass showed only darkness and a blur of cloth, but Harry could still hear. Ron's voice came muffled. Who are you talking to? No one. That sounded like Harry. Harry stopped breathing. Hermione said too quickly, Don't be ridiculous. Don't do that. A pause. Then Ron, lower, hurt now. Hermione, if you know where he is. I don't. It was technically true. She knew how to find him, not where he was. Harry hated the difference. You tell me, right? Ron asked. Hermione said nothing. That silence hurt more than any lie. The mirror went dark. Harry remained standing in the library, holding the glass, listening to nothing. Then he placed it carefully on the desk, very carefully, because if he did not, he might throw it. The first week inside Potter Manor became a routine of watching and failing to act. Hermione called whenever she could, never at the same time twice. Sometimes from Ginny's room, sometimes from the orchard. Once from a broom cupboard at Grimmauld Place, whispering so quietly Harry could barely hear. The order had resumed, using Sirius's old house. Harry did not know how to feel about that. Part of him wanted to shout at them for stepping inside those dark rooms as if Sirius had not hated every wall. Another part of him understood that war did not care about grief's preferences. Through Hermione, the world came to Harry in fragments, the prophet headline declaring emergency Wisengamot sessions, Mrs. Weasley crying when someone mentioned Harry's name, Remus refusing to leave Grimmauld Place for 2 days after learning Harry had vanished, Tonks tripping over an umbrella stand and then snapping at anyone who laughed, Ron angry at everyone, especially Hermione, especially himself, Dumbledore quieter than usual, Snape furious in a way Hermione described as cold even for him. Harry listened. He asked questions. He wrote notes. He filled 3 rolls of parchment with names, times, sightings, rumors, and possible targets. It helped. It did not help enough. The manor gave him more than silence. Once Harry learned how to ask, it gave records. The library opened to him in layers. Books that had been blank on first inspection now revealed titles. Shelves rearranged while he slept. Family journals appeared on the desk, some written in English, some in French, some in cramped old script that made his eyes ache. Harry learned that Potter Manor had been built not as a noble display, but as a refusal. A refuge during a war before Hogwarts had become the safest place in Britain, a place for family, retainers, allies, and children to disappear when bloodlines were being hunted. He learned that the manor's concealment had been used sparingly, almost fearfully. Potters did not hide for comfort. They hid when the alternative was extinction. He learned that keying someone was considered an act of trust, close to adoption, marriage, or oath brotherhood, depending on the century. He learned that a person could be removed from welcome, as Peter had been, but not erased from memory. Trust left marks. So did betrayal. The more Harry read, the heavier Hermione's name felt on the hearthstone. She had become part of the ledger because he had asked her to be. Because he needed someone. Because he could not bear the silence alone. That was true. It was also dangerous. The manor's magic did not care whether love and selfishness arrived in the same breath. One evening, Harry found the portrait hall awake. It happened by accident. He was searching for a book called Boundary Charms and the Ethics of Refusal when the library ladder rolled sharply away from him, crossed the room by itself, and slammed against a shelf he had not touched before. Harry climbed reluctantly. The book he pulled down was not the one he wanted. It was a slim album bound in blue cloth. When he opened it, painted eyes blinked up at him, not photographs, portrait studies, Potters, dozens of them. Men and women with Harry's hair, his jaw, his eyes only sometimes. Some looked severe, some amused, some tired. One witch with bright silver hair stuck her tongue out at him before pretending she had not. Words appeared on the inside cover. If the air avoids the hall may send reminders. Harry looked up at the ceiling. I'm not avoiding it. The library gave a small creak. Harry shut the album. Fine. The portrait hall ran along the west wing, where evening light fell red through narrow windows. The frames that had slept on Harry's first night were awake now, not all of them. Some remained dark. Others held figures watching him with curiosity, sorrow, or the kind of disapproval Harry associated with McGonagall before she took points. An old wizard in green robes adjusted his spectacles. So this is James's boy. A witch beside him leaned forward. Lily's eyes. Harry nearly turned around and left. The old wizard softened. We mean no injury, child. I'm not a child. You are 16. That's not a child. It is to oil paint. Several portraits murmured agreement. Harry folded his arms. I need information. A witch with dark skin and a long braid smiled faintly. He is a Potter. Rude before breakfast and desperate by supper, said the old wizard. It's not supper. Then you are ahead of schedule. Despite himself, Harry almost smiled, almost. A portrait near the end of the hall remained covered by black cloth. Harry knew who it was before anyone said anything. The way the other portraits avoided looking at it made the absence too loud. James and Lily. He was not ready. The silver-haired witch noticed his gaze and did not comment. For that, Harry liked her immediately. What do you need, heir? She asked. Harry, he said. What do you need, Harry? That was better. Name magic, tracking, why saying Voldemort's name outside matters and inside doesn't. Half the portraits flinched at the name, the silver-haired witch did not. Ah, she said. Fear has made a belle of him. Harry frowned. What does that mean? A name repeated with terror becomes a road, not by itself, not always. But if someone powerful enough binds listening magic to the sound, then those who speak it strike the bell. Harry's skin prickled. Is that possible? In war, everything shameful becomes possible. The old wizard rubbed his chin. There were taboos in the old conflicts, crude things mostly, dangerous for both sides. You bind a listening curse to a word. Then when the word is spoken, the curse reports location, sometimes breaks protective enchantments, sometimes alerts hunters. Harry went cold. Could Voldemort do that? The portraits muttered again. The silver-haired witch looked at him carefully. Has he? Not yet, I don't know. But Harry was thinking of Hermione flinching, of the way the world outside seemed to tighten when he spoke the name near the hedge, of the Death Eaters appearing too soon. Maybe they had been watching the burrow already, maybe not. What about inside the manor? "The wards refuse roads," said the old wizard. "A taboo strikes the boundary and finds no thought waiting to carry it. So I could say the name here, yes, and no one would know, yes." Harry looked toward the window. Outside, the grounds lay quiet beneath the darkening sky. A name that was dangerous everywhere else was harmless here. No, not harmless, contained. An idea stirred in Harry's mind, but it had no shape yet. The silver-haired witch saw too much in his face. "Do not confuse immunity with victory." Harry scowled. "Does every old thing in this house speak in warnings?" "Yes," said 3 portraits at once. Harry left before they could become more helpful. That night, Hermione called from what looked like a dark attic. "You were right about the name," Harry said before she could greet him. Her face sharpened. "Explain." He told her about taboos, about names as bells, about location magic bound to spoken fear. Hermione went very still. "That matches something Dad mentioned. There are rumors of people being found after saying the name, but no one wants to admit why because everyone already avoids it. Voldemort made his own name a trap. Possibly. It makes sense. He wants people afraid to say it. Then the people brave enough to say it become easier to find." Hermione looked sick. "That is horrible. It's clever. Those are not mutually exclusive." Harry leaned closer to the mirror. "Hermione, inside the manor I can say it and nothing happens." "I know. No, think about it. If the taboo tries to locate the speaker and can't, Harry, then maybe it still alerts them, Harry." "What?" Her expression was flat with alarm. "You are thinking of using yourself as bait." He hesitated. "No, Harry, not exactly." "That means yes, I'm thinking." "That is often where the trouble begins." He sat back. "I can't just watch." "I know." "No, you don't." Her face flashed with hurt. Harry regretted it at once, but the words kept coming. "You can run when the mark appears. You can help. You can stand with Ron and Ginny and the Order and do something. I sit here with books and mirrors and names on parchment while everyone outside pays for my safety." Hermione's voice went quiet. "You think watching is easier because you are not the one bleeding." Harry said nothing. Her eyes shone in the mirror. "Harry, I am not safe because I'm outside. I am scared most of the time. Ron is scared. Ginny is scared. Mrs. Weasley tries to feed everyone because if she stops moving she cries. Remus looks at doors like he expects Sirius to walk through them and then remembers he won't. Do not turn our danger into your guilt just because guilt gives you something to hold." That silenced him. Hermione breathed hard as if she had run upstairs. Then she softened. "I know you feel trapped." Harry looked down. "I am trapped." "Yes," she said, "but trapped people still have to think." He almost laughed bitterly. "You sound like the portraits." "Good, listen to them too." A noise came from her side of the mirror. She looked over her shoulder. "I have to go soon." "Where are you?" "Grimmauld Place." Harry's grip tightened. "Sirius's room?" "No, the attic. Don't let them touch his things." "Harry, I mean it." Her face softened with pain. "I know." The mirror flickered slightly. Hermione frowned and tapped the glass. Signals strange. Mirrors have signals? Magical paired resonance can weaken if... She stopped. Harry sat up. "If what?" Hermione's face grew distant in the glass, as if mist had passed between them. "Hermione," the image steadied, "I'm here." "What happened?" "I don't know." She looked uneasy. For a moment it felt like someone was listening. Harry's blood chilled. "I thought the mirror was keyed." "So did I." "Can anyone else see you?" "No, I'm alone. Can anyone else have a mirror?" "No, unless..." They both fell silent. Unless paired mirrors were not the only kind. Unless the channel itself could be noticed. Unless someone with enough power knew what to look for. Hermione spoke first. "Do not use this more than necessary." "You call me..." "Harry, Hermione, if someone can listen, you're the one outside, and you are the one every side wants." Her jaw set. "We reduce contact. We use code for names. We do not say locations. We assume anything emotional can be used." Harry hated how quickly she became practical. He also depended on it. "What code?" "Simple. People from school get initials. Locations get colors. You know who is not named on my side. Dumbledore is Professor Blue." Despite everything, Harry blinked. "Professor Blue? He wears blue often." "That's the worst code I've ever heard." "Fine, you make one." Harry thought for 2 seconds. "Lemon." Hermione stared. "Because of the sherbet lemons?" "That is somehow worse." "It'll work." She sighed. Fine, Dumbledore is lemon. For a moment they were almost themselves, then shouting erupted behind her. Hermione turned. Harry heard Ron's voice again, urgent this time. Hermione, they found another one. She grabbed the mirror. Harry, I have to go. Another what? But she was already moving. The mirror showed rafters, dust, her sleeve, then darkness. Hermione? No answer. The glass cleared only after nearly an hour. When Hermione returned, she was not in the attic. She was somewhere brighter, with voices around her. She had the mirror angled close so Harry could see only part of her face. What happened? He demanded. Another attack. Where? She hesitated. Code Hermione. Right, another attack near Red. Harry tried to remember. They had not made a code for any place called Red. She saw his confusion and whispered, Diagon Alley. His stomach twisted. The twins? They're safe. Their shop was damaged but not destroyed. No one died. It happened after closing. Harry closed his eyes. Fred and George's shop had been one of the only bright things left after last year. A place built from laughter and rebellion, now dragged into the same war because of him. Was there a mark? No, that's the strange part. No mark, just fire, controlled fire, enough to frighten, not enough to kill. Message. Yes, to me, probably. Did they leave anything? Hermione's eyes flicked away. Hermione, a note. What did it say? She swallowed. It said, the boy may hide, his friends may not. Harry went cold all over. For a second, the library vanished. He was back in the Department of Mysteries, watching Bellatrix smile. He was in the graveyard, tied to a headstone. He was in Dumbledore's office, hearing prophecy like a chain closing around his neck. The boy may hide, his friends may not. Voldemort had seen the shape of the board faster than anyone. Of course he had. Harry put the mirror down before he broke it. Harry, Hermione whispered. He pressed both hands against the desk and forced himself to breathe. I'm here, do not leave tonight, he laughed once. You know me too well. Yes, I do, that is why I am saying it. They attacked the twins. They attacked a building to get to me. Yes. So I should do nothing. No, you should not do something stupid in the first hour after being hurt. Harry looked at her. When did you get so calm? I am not calm, she said sharply. I am furious, I am frightened. I am hiding in a corridor talking into a cracked mirror while Ron thinks I am keeping secrets from him because I am. But one of us has to say the thing you do not want to hear. What thing? That Voldemort wants you to react. The name slipped from her mouth, not you know who, not the Dark Lord. Voldemort. Harry saw her realize it. Her eyes widened. The mirror exploded with static, not sound, magic. The glass went white. Harry shouted her name, but the mirror burned cold in his hand. For one terrible second, he saw something through the whiteness. Not Hermione's face, not the corridor, but a flash of black masks turning in the same direction. Then the image snapped back. Hermione was running. The mirror shook wildly. Harry heard shouting behind her. Not close enough to understand. Footsteps. A door slamming, a spell hitting stone. Hermione, I'm all right, she gasped. I'm inside Grimmauld. Wards caught it. Something hit the outer charm. You said his name. I know. Was it the taboo? Yes. Harry's mouth went dry, so it was real. Hermione ran into a room and locked the door. Her breathing came fast. It didn't find the exact room, she said. The Fidelius confused it, but something answered. Harry, the name is definitely trapped. Harry sat very still. The manor's silence changed around him, not because the house moved. Because Harry's understanding did. Inside Potter Manor, Voldemort's name could be spoken safely. Outside, it was a flare. A dangerous thought finally took shape, not a plan, not yet, but a possibility. If the name was bait, then the speaker chose where the hook landed. Hermione saw his face. No. I didn't say anything. You are thinking again. I have to. No, Harry, not tonight. Her voice cracked on the last word. That stopped him. For all her rules and codes and sharpness, Hermione looked 16 too. Tired, frightened, and trying to hold a war together with parchment and stubbornness. Harry lowered his gaze. Not tonight, she nodded once. Promise me. He hated promises. They became leashes too easily, but he said, I promise. Hermione closed her eyes briefly. Thank you. That night, Harry did not leave. He did something worse. He watched. Hermione kept the mirror open for nearly an hour while Order members argued downstairs at Grimmauld Place. She placed it behind books on a shelf, angled just enough that Harry could see the kitchen through the open door and hear voices carrying up the stairwell. It was wrong. He knew it was wrong. But being ignorant had killed Sirius, so Harry listened. Moody's growl came first. Taboo confirmed. Granger said the name, and we had probes on the outer wards inside a minute. Mrs. Weasley gasped. Inside a minute? Less. Kingsley's calm voice followed. It was not a direct breach. More like a location strike. Grimmauld Fidelius scattered it. Potter Manor would scatter it more, Dumbledore said. Harry's entire body went rigid. Dumbledore was there. He sounded tired. He always sounded tired now, and Harry hated that part of him still cared. Moody snapped. You knew where the boy could go. I knew of the possibility. That's not an answer. No, Dumbledore said softly. It is not. A chair scraped. Remus spoke next, voice quiet and rough. Albus, did James know? A pause. Yes. Harry stopped breathing. Remus continued, and Sirius. Yes. And Peter? The room went colder even through the mirror. Dumbledore's answer was almost inaudible. Yes, Mrs. Weasley whispered something Harry could not hear. Remus's voice changed. Then Voldemort may know more than we think. Harry leaned closer. Dumbledore said, Peter was never master of the house. His welcome would have withered after betrayal. But memory, Remus pressed, that is less certain. Harry's hands clenched. Less certain, of course, always less certain after it mattered. Snape's voice cut in, cold and sharp. The Dark Lord has not named the manor. If Pettigrew retained anything useful, we would have seen movement by now. The Dark Lord, Moody growled, still fond of the title, still fond of surviving conversations with people who lack subtlety. Enough, Kingsley said. Dumbledore spoke again. Tom has begun lateral pressure. The attack on the Weasley shop was restrained by design. Restrained? Mrs. Weasley's voice shook with fury. He set fire to my son's shop. And did not kill them, Dumbledore said gently, which means the message mattered more than the murder. Harry closed his eyes. He hated Dumbledore for saying it calmly. He hated more that it was true. What does he want? Tonks asked. Harry outside, Dumbledore said. Visible, emotional, alone if possible. Remus made a broken sound. He'll come if people are hurt. Yes, said Dumbledore. No one disagreed. Harry wanted to shout through the mirror that they did not know him, but the anger collapsed before it stood. They did know. That was the problem. Snape spoke again. Then the obvious solution is to prevent the predictable heroic idiocy before it occurs. Mrs. Weasley snapped. He is a grieving child, Severus. He is a strategically vital grieving child. Don't you dare! Both may be true, Dumbledore said. Harry's grip on the mirror tightened until the glass creaked. Strategically vital. There it was again, not Harry, not son of James and Lily, not godson of Sirius. A piece, a vital one, Dumbledore continued. Harry must not be forced, but neither can he be allowed to believe withdrawal has no cost. Remus said, You think he doesn't know that by now? The room fell silent. Then Dumbledore very quietly said, I think Harry has spent his life paying costs chosen by others. That may make him slow to recognize those chosen by himself. Harry flinched. He hated that. He hated that Dumbledore could still find the soft place in the argument. Hermione's hand appeared suddenly and snatched the mirror up. Her face filled the glass. I'm closing it, she whispered. No, wait. No, you've heard enough. The glass went dark. Harry sat frozen. The library around him felt smaller than before. Withdrawal had a cost. He knew that. He had known it from the moment the dark mark appeared behind Hermione's shoulder. But knowing was not the same as having an answer. For the next 2 days, attacks continued like drops of poison in water. A false mark over an empty field near Ottery St. Catchpole. A cursed message delivered to Neville's grandmother that screamed Harry's name until she burned it. A ministry clerk connected to Arthur Weasley found stunned in an alley, unharmed except for the words ASK, the BOY written on parchment pinned to his robes. No deaths. That was the horror of it. Voldemort was not killing yet because killing ended the pressure too quickly. Fear was more useful alive. Families could imagine the next attack, the next note, the next green skull in the sky. Harry wrote every event down, time, place, target, message, response. He arranged the parchments across the library floor until patterns emerged. Voldemort was circling, not randomly. The attacks formed a widening ring around known Harry connections. Weasleys, DA members, Order associates, public defenders. People who had stood beside him when the Ministry called him a liar. Harry's name was the center, but Harry was absent from the board, so Voldemort marked the spaces where Harry should have been. On the third evening, the manor gave him another gift, or perhaps another burden. A book fell from the upper shelf and landed open at his feet. Harry looked up suspiciously, subtle. The book's title read, Household Correspondence Protections and Intercepted Channels. Most of it was dull. Then Harry found the section on mirrored communication. He read it once, then again. Then his mouth went dry. Mirrors could not be intercepted easily if properly paired. But they could be observed through the person holding the far glass if that person was compromised, followed, magically marked, or emotionally manipulated into exposing the channel at a vulnerable moment. The mirror was not a hole in the wards, it was a hand extended through them, and hands could be grabbed. Harry thought of Hermione saying it felt like someone was listening. He thought of Ron asking if she knew where he was. He thought of Peter's name on the hearthstone. Trust was not a wall. It was a door you stood beside forever. That night Hermione did not call, nor the next morning. By afternoon, Harry was pacing so hard the library rug began to wrinkle under his feet. At sunset, the mirror finally clouded, but Hermione's face did not appear. Instead, Harry saw a ceiling. Wooden beams, a hanging lamp, muffled voices. Then the mirror shifted, as if lying on a table. Hermione's voice came from nearby, angry and frightened. "No, I said leave it alone," Ron answered, equally angry. "Then tell me what it is." Harry's heart dropped. "Ron," Hermione snapped, "this is not—" "That's Harry's mirror, isn't it?" Silence. A chair scraped, Ginny's voice quieter but sharper. "Hermione!" Harry sat forward, the mirror lifted. For one moment, Ron's face filled the glass. He looked tired, furious, and hurt in a way that made Harry feel like the worst person alive. Then his eyes widened. "Harry!" Harry's throat closed. Ron stared at him, then anger hit. "You absolute prat." Harry almost smiled because it was so Ron that it hurt. "I know. You know, you vanish for a week. Hermione lies to my face. Mum's crying every night, and you know—" "I'm sorry." "Where are you?" Hermione's voice cut in. "Ron, don't ask that." Ron rounded on her. "You knew. I was trying to keep you safe." "By lying," Harry said. "Ron, it was my choice." Ron looked back at the mirror. "That makes it worse." Ginny moved into view behind him, arms folded. Her face was pale but controlled. "Are you safe?" she asked. Harry hesitated. Ron barked a laugh. "Brilliant. He can't even answer that." "I'm hidden," Harry said. "From who?" "Everyone." Ron stared. Ginny's eyes narrowed. "Even him?" "Yes." Ron's anger flickered, shaken by that. "How?" "My parents had a house, warded. Old magic. Dumbledore sealed it after they died." For a second, Ron's face went blank. Ginny whispered, "He what?" Hermione closed her eyes. Ron looked like someone had punched the air out of him. "You had a house." Harry nodded once. "And you were at the Dursleys'." Harry said nothing. Ron's anger changed shape. It did not vanish. It found a new target. "I'm going to kill him." "Ron," Hermione said, "not actually, probably, but I'm thinking about it." Despite everything, Harry's mouth twitched. Then the mirror flickered. All four of them noticed. Hermione lunged for it. "We have to close the channel." "Wait," Ron said. "No, I just found him." "Ron," a shout sounded from somewhere beyond them, Arthur Weasley's voice. "Everyone inside now." Ginny turned sharply. "What happened?" The mirror tilted as Ron grabbed it and ran with the others. Harry saw flashes of the Burrow kitchen, Molly's clock spinning wildly, Fred and George with wands out, Arthur at the door, face grim. Then Harry heard another voice, not in the room, from outside, amplified by magic. Cold, pleased, unfamiliar. Harry Potter. The Burrow went silent. Harry's blood froze. The voice continued. "We know you hear through glass." Hermione's face appeared, horrified. Ron whispered. "Harry!" The mirror shook in his hand. The cold voice outside the Burrow spoke again. "Hide well." A green flare lit the kitchen windows, not the dark mark. A spell. Then something struck the Burrow's outer wards with a thunderous crack. The mirror went black. Harry stood in Potter Manor, safe and untouched, while the echo of Voldemort's message died in his hands. For a long moment, he heard nothing but his own breathing. Then the hearthstone in the distant heart of the house flared bright enough to cast gold light under the library door. Harry ran. The manor seemed to stretch around him. Corridors lengthened. Shadows folded. By the time he reached the round chamber, the hearthstone was blazing. Hermione's name burned steady. Ron's did not appear. Ginny's did not appear. They were outside the wall, unkeyed, unprotected. The fire twisted. A new image formed above the stone, not a vision exactly. More like words overheard through old blood and ward logic. A table, masked figures, a list. Harry saw names written in dark ink. Weasley, Granger, Longbottom, Lovegood, Lupin, Tonks. And then one name near the bottom made the world narrow to a single point. Arthur Weasley. Beside it, a time, tomorrow night, a place marked only by a symbol Harry did not recognize. The image vanished. The fire fell low. Harry stood in the golden chamber, shaking. Voldemort had made his next move. A name Harry loved was on the board. The meeting to act on it was tomorrow night. Harry had hours, and the wards could not reach. Harry spent the first hour after seeing Arthur Weasley's name doing exactly what everyone expected him to do. He panicked. Not loudly, not dramatically. He did not smash the hearthstone or shout at the portraits or run straight through the gate with his wand drawn. He had done that version of panic before. It had a grave at the end of it and Sirius's empty laugh echoing in his head. This panic was quieter. Worse. He stood in the round chamber at the heart of Potter Manor, staring at the place where the image had been, trying to force the hearthstone to show it again. "Weasley," he said. "Arthur Weasley, show me." The fire bent, flickered, and settled. "Please." Nothing. Harry clenched his fists. The manor could receive. It could record. It could answer when it chose. But it could not reach outward, and it would not become a spy just because Harry needed one. The rules did not care that Arthur Weasley had once taken him to the Quidditch World Cup, had once smiled at him across a kitchen table, had once treated him with ordinary kindness, as if Harry was not a weapon or prophecy or burden. Rules did not care who you loved. That was what made them rules. Harry turned from the hearthstone and ran to the library. If he could not force the manor to act, he would use what it had already given him, the list, the time, the symbol. He drew it from memory 3 times before he was satisfied. It was a simple mark, a circle split by a vertical line with 3 smaller cuts across the bottom. Not a rune he knew. Not a Death Eater sign he had seen. Not a Ministry Department mark. Harry spread books across the library floor until the space looked like Hermione had exploded. Old warding manuals, bloodline records, pure blood heraldry, ministry architecture references, a cracked atlas that refused to show modern roads, a book on secret meeting houses of Britain that smelled like mildew and secrets. Nothing. The symbol stared back at him from his parchment, useless and smug. At dawn, the mirror clouded. Harry lunged for it. Hermione appeared, her hair loose around her face, eyes shadowed with exhaustion. "Harry," she said at once, "everyone's alive." He sagged back against the desk. "Arthur? Safe?" The attack on the burrow was a probe. Outer wards cracked but held. No one got inside. "Good!" His voice sounded too thin for the size of the relief. Hermione's gaze sharpened. "What happened on your side?" Harry hesitated, then told her about the Hearthstone vision. He left nothing out this time. Not Arthur's name, not the time, not the symbol, not the fact that the manor had shown it only once and refused to repeat itself. By the end, Hermione had gone very still. "Show me the symbol." Harry held up the parchment. Her eyes narrowed. "That isn't Death Eater." "I know. It isn't Ministry either." "Wait." She vanished from the mirror for several seconds. Harry heard frantic rustling, a drawer opening, something heavy falling, and Hermione whispering a word she would probably deny saying later. Then she returned holding a folded piece of parchment. "I've seen something like that in a map of old flu exchange stations." Flu! Before the modern network was centralized, some families and businesses used private exchange rooms. Most were shut down or absorbed into ministry routing. The circle means hearth. The vertical line is a threshold. The 3 cuts might mean abandoned, sealed, or restricted depending on the century. Harry's mind caught fire. A sealed flu room? Possibly. Can Death Eaters use one if they know it exists and the Ministry doesn't monitor it properly? Yes. Where? I don't know. Hermione looked frustrated enough to bite the mirror. There were hundreds, maybe thousands. The hearthstone showed Arthur's name. He works at the Ministry, she said quickly. If the attack involves transportation, they could be targeting his route. Harry paced. Arthur Weasley used the Ministry entrance. Toilets, flu, visitor access, security checkpoints. But Death Eaters would expect the Order to protect the obvious routes after the Burrow attack. That meant the meeting was not necessarily about kidnapping Arthur at work. It was about moving him. Or making him move. Harry stopped. They won't attack him directly, Hermione frowned. How do you know? Because that's not what they're doing. They didn't kill at the Burrow. They didn't kill at the twins' shop. Voldemort wants pressure. Arthur is pressure because of me and because of the Weasleys. If they kill him, everything changes. If they make it look like they can take him whenever they want, Hermione's face went pale. They force you out. Or force the Order to move him somewhere safer. And if they know the safe route, they take him there. Hermione stared at him for half a second, then began talking rapidly. Arthur will be moved after the Burrow attack. Molly will insist. The Order will argue. Dumbledore may suggest a rotating safe house or Grimmauld Place. If someone leaks a route, the meeting tomorrow night could be to intercept. Can you find out? I can try, but Harry. No, don't get caught. She gave him a look. That is a ridiculous thing for you to say. I mean it. So do I. They stared at each other through the cracked glass. Then Hermione looked down at the symbol again. There's another possibility. If it is an abandoned flu exchange, it might not be where Arthur is taken. It might be where the Death Eaters gather before moving. Harry's heart began to beat harder. Can you find a list? Not quickly. Maybe in the Black Library. Don't. Harry, Grimmauld Place is full of cursed things and Order members watching you because of the mirror. That is unfortunately true. Harry looked around his own library. Potter records, old families, maybe they used the same network. He dropped to his knees in front of the books and began searching again with the mirror propped on the desk. Hermione stayed with him for nearly 20 minutes, whispering suggestions. Look for exchange, hearth route, restricted, private flu, threshold houses, emergency family network. The manor listened. At least Harry thought it did, because just as Hermione had to leave, the library ladder rolled by itself to the farthest shelf, climbed without a hand touching it, and knocked a narrow black book onto the floor. Harry picked it up. The title appeared only after his fingers touched the cover. Extinct Hearths and Refused Roads. Hermione leaned close to her mirror. That sounds promising. It sounds cheerful. Read. Harry opened the book. The pages fluttered violently, stopping halfway through. There, drawn in faded ink, was the symbol, circle, line, 3 cuts. Beneath it, a name, Gallows End Exchange. Harry read aloud. Decommissioned, 1847. Removed from public flu registry after repeated misuse by smugglers, debt dodgers, and one unfortunate incident involving a self-important Viscount and a crate of biting teacups. Hermione blinked. That is oddly specific. Coordinates are listed. Do not go there. Harry looked at her. Arthur's name was on a list for tomorrow night. I know. If I warn the Order, Dumbledore controls the move. If you go alone, Voldemort controls it. Harry looked away. The name hung between them. She had not flinched this time, but she had gone stiff. I'm not going to fight them. That has not always stopped you. This is different. How? Harry's eyes moved to the book, then to the window, then toward the distant heart of the manor. Because I don't need to beat them, I need to move them. Hermione's face changed. What are you thinking? Harry explained. At first, Hermione looked horrified, then furious, then thoughtful, which was how Harry knew the plan was either good or dangerous enough to sound clever, probably both. No, she said at last. Hermione, no, listen. The idea has shape, but you cannot do it the way you are imagining. I haven't said how I'm imagining it. You are imagining walking to the exchange, saying the name, letting the taboo pull them there, then escaping. Harry shut his mouth. Hermione pointed at him through the mirror. That is a terrible plan. It's not terrible if it works. That sentence is carved on the tombstones of Gryffindors. Fine, improve it. She took a breath. You need layers. You need false timing, false location, and a return path that does not depend on outrunning anyone. I have the map. The map leads you to the manor. It does not make your legs longer. Helpful, you asked. They worked until noon. It was strange, planning a rescue where no one would be rescued directly and no curse would be thrown. Harry kept wanting to simplify it into action. Go there, say the name, run. But Hermione forced him to think like the manor thought: boundaries, perception, invitation, refusal. The old Gallows End exchange was abandoned, but not destroyed. Its hearth still existed, which meant old magic still recognized it as a place where arrivals could happen. If Harry spoke Voldemort's name there, the taboo would strike. If the Death Eaters were already using the exchange, the alert would either panic them into revealing themselves or drag more of them there before they were ready. But Harry did not need to stand in the exchange itself. That was Hermione's correction. He needed the taboo to think he did. If Potter Manor erased location, then the threshold was the only dangerous edge. A word spoken just outside the manor could be heard by the world. A word spoken just inside could not. But perhaps a word reflected through an old paired hearth channel might land wrong. Like shouting down a pipe, Hermione said, and closing the pipe before anyone climbs back. Exactly. Except the pipe may be cursed, the climbers are murderers and you are you. Still better than your first metaphor. I am under stress. The plan became this. Harry would use Potter Manor's old hearth records to open a viewing connection to Gallows End from inside the manor. Not travel, not flew. The manor could receive, not send. But old hearths remembered each other, and the book suggested heirs could observe extinct family-linked hearths if those hearths had once belonged to allies. Gallows End had once served the Potters. That was why the manor knew it. Harry would speak Voldemort's name into the manor's hearth while the viewing connection was open, not as communication, but as reflected sound. The taboo might follow the echo toward Gallows End, not toward the manor might. Hermione hated the word. Harry hated it too. But the alternative was doing nothing while Arthur walked into a trap. The first test failed. Harry stood in front of the hearthstone, book open, mirror propped nearby, Hermione watching anxiously from somewhere in the burrow. He spoke the old hearth phrase. Nothing happened. The second test filled the chamber with soot. The third caused every portrait in the West Hall to wake up and complain about reckless chimney manners. The fourth produced a brief image above the hearthstone, a ruined room, broken brick, and a circle of blackened stone, Gallows End. Harry's breath caught. Hermione leaned close to the mirror. That's it. The image wavered. The ruined exchange was empty. Dust lay thick on the floor. The ceiling had partly collapsed. Moonlight, though it was day outside Potter Manor, fell through cracks in high windows. A large hearth dominated one wall, its mantel carved with old routing symbols. Harry checked the book. Viewing connection only. Good, Hermione said. Do not attempt travel. I wasn't going to. She gave him a look. I wasn't. The fact that I have to check is the problem. The fifth test was the important one. Harry spoke a harmless word toward the image, stag. The sound vanished into the hearthstone. A moment later, dust stirred in Gallows End. Hermione inhaled sharply. It carried. Harry felt a wild surge of hope. Then the hearthstone fire dimmed so quickly he staggered. A cold ache opened behind his ribs. Hermione noticed at once. Harry, I'm fine. You are not fine. What happened? The wards didn't like that. Because the manor cannot reach outward. It didn't reach, it reflected. Harry, I know. He sat down before he fell down. The ache passed after a minute, but it left a tiredness in his bones. Not ordinary tiredness. Something deeper. Like the manor had borrowed a breath from him and forgotten to return all of it. The sixth law. The anchor sustains the concealment. The manor fed on him. Using its old hearth memory had a cost. Hermione looked shaken. We stop. No. Yes, Hermione, it worked. It hurt you. Everything hurts someone. That is not a strategy. Her voice cracked through the mirror. Harry looked at her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Harry said quietly, "Arthur is tomorrow night." Hermione closed her eyes. "I know. I can pay tired. You always say that before paying worse." He had no answer. The rest of the day passed in preparation. Harry wrote the plan 3 times and destroyed the first 2. He packed a small bag and then unpacked most of it because carrying too much would slow him down if the hearth trick failed and he had to move physically. Wand, cloak, map, Sirius's letter, mirror, the black book, a vial of dittany he found in the Manor's medical cabinet, 2 chocolate bars from the pantry because Hermione insisted food was strategy, and Harry did not have the energy to argue. At sunset, the portraits demanded to be informed. Harry tried to ignore them. This failed because the silver-haired witch from the portrait hall appeared in a smaller frame above the library mantel, apparently having moved there specifically to look disappointed. "You are preparing to do something foolish." Harry did not look up from the map. That's a broad accusation. It is usually accurate with heirs under 20. "I'm not going to duel anyone. No, you are going to provoke hunters and rely on a house not built to throw its voice." Harry finally looked at her. "Can it work?" The portrait was silent. That was answer enough. Harry returned to folding the map. The old wizard with spectacles appeared in the frame beside her, squeezing in awkwardly. "The manor will resist being used as a trumpet. It is a wall." "I know. Walls crack when forced to sing." Harry's hands stilled. "What happens if it cracks?" The portraits looked at each other. The silver-haired witch spoke gently. "You will feel it first." That did not reassure him. Good. He was tired of reassurance. "Can the Death Eaters follow the sound back here?" "No," said the old wizard. "Not if you remain inside. If," the silver-haired witch's painted eyes sharpened, "if the echo fails, you may decide to step outside to make it louder." Harry said nothing. The portraits both sighed. "You have your father's face when planning to ignore advice," said the old wizard. "And your mother's eyes when you know the advice is correct," added the witch. Harry looked away. "That's unfair. Old portraits have few remaining pleasures." Despite himself, Harry smiled faintly. Then the smile faded. "If I do nothing, Arthur might die. If you do this badly, more than Arthur may die," the witch said. "I know." "Do you?" Harry thought of Sirius falling through the veil. He thought of Cedric's body on the grass. He thought of Hermione saying trapped people still had to think. "Yes," he said. "I do." The portraits did not stop him again. Night came heavy and starless. At 10 minutes past 11, Hermione called. She was in Ginny's room. Her voice was low but steady. "The Order is moving Arthur tonight." Harry's heart kicked. "Where?" "I don't know. They're not telling anyone underage after what happened with the mirror." "That's probably smart." "It is extremely annoying." "Both," she nodded. "Ron knows I'm talking to you." Harry swallowed. "How angry." "Very." "Yeah, but he said." Hermione hesitated. "He said if you're doing something stupid, make sure it's stupid enough to work." Harry breathed out. That sounded like forgiveness wearing armor. Ginny's voice came from nearby, though she did not appear in the mirror. "And tell him not to die because Mum will kill him." Harry almost laughed. It came out broken, but it was close enough. "I'll try." Hermione looked at him carefully. "You have the dittany?" "Yes." "Map?" "Yes." "Cloak?" "Yes." "Escape route?" "Manor." "Second escape route?" Harry hesitated. "Running?" "Harry." "I don't have another one." Her mouth tightened. At her side, Ginny muttered, "At least he's honest." Hermione ignored her. "If the hearth connection hurts you again, stop." "I can't promise that." "I know. That is why I am saying it anyway." Harry looked down at the mirror. "Hermione?" "What? If something happens—" "No, you don't know what I was going to say." "Yes, I do. You were about to give me instructions for after you die, and I am not accepting them. I just need—" "No." Her eyes filled with fierce, frightened light. "Come back and tell Ron yourself." Harry's throat tightened. "Okay." The mirror went dark. Harry stood in the hearthstone chamber alone. The golden fire burned low, waiting. The black book lay open on the floor. The old symbol of Gallows End stared up from the page. Harry placed his wand beside it, then the map, then Sirius's mirror. No force. That was the rule he kept repeating. No duel, no charge, no heroic rescue. Move the threat, change the position, make Voldemort's people run to the wrong place. Harry cut his thumb. The hearthstone brightened at once. "Gallows End Exchange," Harry said. The fire turned inward. The room shook softly. An image opened above the hearthstone, the ruined exchange, empty and gray beneath broken moonlight. Harry's chest tightened with the same cold ache as before. He ignored it. Open viewing memory. The image sharpened. Dust, broken stone, old hearth. No Death Eaters, not yet. Harry checked the time. 11:30. The attack or meeting, whatever it was, had been marked for midnight. He waited. Waiting was worse than action. It gave fear time to dress itself in logic. What if Hermione was wrong? What if the symbol meant something else? What if the Death Eaters were already moving Arthur while Harry stared at an empty ruin? What if the taboo did not follow the echo? What if it did? At 11:47, the image changed. A flame appeared in the ruined hearth. Green, not bright like the killing curse, darker. Flew fire. Harry held his breath. A masked figure stepped out, then another, then 3 more Death Eaters. Harry's fear became cold and clean. The meeting was real. The figures spoke, but the viewing memory carried only shape, not sound, unless Harry paid more blood or more magic to sharpen it. He decided not to. He did not need their words. Then a 6th figure entered, short, nervous, hunched, even masked. Harry knew him, Peter Pettigrew. The room seemed to tilt. Harry's hand moved to his wand. No force. No duel. Peter crossed the ruined exchange and held up a piece of parchment. One of the Death Eaters pointed to it. Another laughed silently, then the viewing image flickered. A face appeared briefly in the green flame, pale, snake-like, red-eyed, not fully there, not physically present, but watching Voldemort. Harry's scar burned. Inside the manor, the pain was muffled, like a scream through thick glass, but it was still there. Voldemort's image turned slightly. Harry had the horrible impression that those red eyes were looking straight through the viewing memory, not seeing him, not yet, sensing the edge of something. Harry had seconds. He leaned toward the hearthstone and spoke the name, Voldemort. Nothing happened. For one terrible instant, nothing happened. Then the world rang, not with sound, with attention. The taboo struck like lightning searching for a tower. The hearthstone fire roared upward, gold turning white at the edges. The image of Gallows End buckled. In the ruined exchange, every Death Eater spun toward the empty air. Harry said it again. Voldemort. The second strike hit harder. The ache behind his ribs became a blade. The image above the hearthstone split into 3 overlapping views. Gallows End, the manor chamber, and somewhere outside in the dark, where masked figures were apparating toward the wrong place. The taboo had taken the bait. Death Eaters began arriving at Gallows End in bursts of black smoke and green flame. The first group shouted at the second. Wands lifted. Someone fired a curse into empty space. It struck a wall and brought down a rain of stone. Peter Pettigrew fell backward, scrambling like a rat. Harry almost smiled. Then Voldemort's face in the green flame went still. Very slowly, the red eyes turned, not toward the empty center of Gallows End, toward the hearth, toward the echo, toward Harry. The scar pain sharpened. Harry gasped and nearly broke the connection. But the plan needed one more push. If the Death Eaters merely panicked, they might still return to the real target. He needed them committed. He needed the trap to look like Harry had almost been there, so he did the thing Hermione had told him not to do. He opened the sound. Blood from his thumb smeared across the black book's page. The room dropped into cold. Suddenly, the voices from Gallows End burst into the hearthstone chamber. "Here!" He said the name here. Spread out. "Find him, my lord," the signal. Harry took one breath and spoke clearly into the fire. "You're late." The ruined exchange exploded into chaos. Every masked face turned toward the sound. Peter screamed. That was satisfying, too satisfying. Voldemort's face in the flames smiled, not widely, barely at all. That was worse. "Harry," he said. The voice passed through the hearth like smoke under a door. Potter Manor recoiled. Harry felt it. The walls did not move, but something old and deep tightened around him. The hearthstone flared, not in welcome but refusal. Voldemort should not have been able to answer. The sound was only a reflection, a viewing memory, not a channel, but Voldemort had always been good at finding cracks in impossible things. Harry grabbed the mirror and the map. Close. The hearthstone did not close. The image twisted. Voldemort's face grew clearer. "You have found a clever hole?" Voldemort whispered. Harry's chest felt crushed. Close. The golden fire fought the green. The manor was a wall. Walls cracked when forced to sing. Harry understood the warning too late. The connection had let the taboo strike gallows' end. It had also let Voldemort feel the shape of a place that refused him. Not location, not entry, not even memory, shape. Enough to know there was a wall, enough to know Harry stood behind one. Voldemort's smile sharpened. Not tonight, then. The green flame surged. Harry felt something hook into the edge of the echo, not into the manor, into him. The scar on his forehead burned white-hot. For a moment, Harry saw through another pair of eyes. Gallows' end in flames. Peter on his knees. Death Eaters shouting. Voldemort amused. Then another image flashed. Arthur Weasley stepping through a ministry corridor, Kingsley beside him, Dumbledore's silver beard visible at the edge of sight. Not at gallows' end, safe. The bait had worked. The Death Eaters had moved. Arthur's route had been cleared. Then Harry saw Voldemort's hand lift, not at Arthur, at the echo, at him. Harry did the only thing he could. He stepped backward out of the hearthstone circle and slashed his bleeding thumb across his own name on the stone. Close the wall. The manor obeyed. The connection snapped. The backlash threw Harry across the chamber. He hit the stone floor hard enough to drive the air from his lungs. The mirror skidded away. The black book slammed shut. The golden fire collapsed into a single thin flame. For a while, Harry could not move. His scar throbbed. His ribs screamed. His hand burned where blood had touched the hearthstone. But he was inside. The manor stood. The wall had closed. Harry rolled onto his side, coughing. The room spun. Then the mirror flashed. He crawled toward it. Hermione's face appeared, wild with fear. "Harry, worked," he rasped. "What did you do?" Moved them. "You look awful, thanks." Harry, he tried to sit up and failed. Hermione's voice shook. "Arthur is safe. The Order changed route after a false alarm at an old flu exchange. Death Eaters swarmed the wrong place. Dumbledore thinks someone baited them." Harry closed his eyes. Safe. Arthur was safe. For one moment, that was enough. Then Hermione said, "But Harry, something happened after." His eyes opened. "What?" Dumbledore knew. A cold feeling spread through him. Knew what? That it was you, or suspected. He left the safe route halfway through and went toward Gallows' End. He was watching for your first move. Harry laughed weakly. Of course he was. Dumbledore had not needed to find the manor. He had needed to understand Harry. That was almost worse. "Did he see me?" "No, I don't think so." "But he fought Death Eaters at Gallows' End after you broke the connection." "Not a full battle. Enough to stop them scattering too quickly. Enough to make them think the Order had set the trap." Harry stared at the mirror. Dumbledore had protected the lie, maybe intentionally. Maybe because it served his own plans, maybe both. What did Voldemort do? Hermione went pale at the name, but did not correct him. No one saw him physically, but Snape looked, she swallowed. Afraid! That was not good. Harry pushed himself upright with a groan. Hermione, he felt something. "Who, you know who? Use the code." "No, not now. Voldemort. He didn't find the manor, but he felt the wall. He knows I'm behind something." Hermione was silent. That silence meant she understood how bad it was. "Harry," she said carefully, "can he use that?" "I don't know." "Can the manor tell you?" "Maybe." "Then check, carefully, and no more blood tonight." Harry almost smiled. "Yes, Madam Healer, I am not joking. I know." Her expression softened, then tightened again. "There is something else." Harry's faint smile vanished. "What?" "Ron wants to talk to you." Harry closed his eyes, not because he did not want to, because he did too much. "Not now," Hermione said quickly. "You're hurt. I told him tomorrow." "Thank you." "He called you several names." "Fair. Then he said he was glad you were alive." Harry looked down. The mirror blurred. He blinked hard until it cleared. "I'll talk to him." "You'd better." The mirror dimmed. Before it went fully dark, Hermione said softly, "You saved Arthur." Harry wanted those words to feel clean. They did not, because he had also shown Voldemort the shape of the wall. Because Dumbledore had been waiting. Because every positional win seemed to open another door under his feet. The mirror went dark. Harry sat alone in the hearthstone chamber, breathing through the pain. Eventually, he forced himself to stand. The room tilted, but held. He went to the hearthstone. The names burned there, steady and old. Harry James Potter, James Fremont Potter, Lily J. Potter, Sirius Orion Black, Peter Pettigrew, thin and withered, Hermione Jean Granger. Harry reached toward Hermione's name, needing to see it bright. His hand stopped. The letters flickered, not dim. Not extinguished, flickered, as if something outside the manor was pulling at the edge of her binding. Harry's mouth went dry. No. The hearthstone fire bent around Hermione's name, gold struggling against a faint thread of greenish shadow. A message formed beneath it, keyed, living, pressured. Harry's heart hammered. Pressured by what? The fire snapped. One word appeared. Mirror. Harry looked across the chamber at Sirius's mirror lying on the floor. Its cracked corner reflected the hearthstone fire. For a moment, in that reflection, Harry thought he saw another eye looking back. Then it was gone. The room became very quiet. Arthur Weasley was safe. The Death Eaters had been moved. Harry had won his first active move outside the wall without throwing a single curse, and someone had learned to pull on the hand he had extended through the glass. Deep in the house that wasn't there, Hermione's name flickered again. Hermione's name flickered until dawn. Harry did not leave the hearthstone chamber. He sat on the cold stone floor with his back against the wall, wand in one hand, Sirius's mirror in the other, watching the letters of her name brighten dim, as if something outside the manor was breathing against them. Hermione Jean Granger, gold shadow, gold shadow. The word beneath her name remained unchanged, pressured, not captured, not broken, not betrayed, pressured. Harry hated the difference because it gave him just enough hope to keep sitting there. The manor stayed quiet around him. Its silence had changed since the night at Gallows End. Before, the silence had felt like privacy. Now it felt like a held breath. Even the portraits had stopped muttering. The lamps burned low. The fire inside the hearthstone had shrunk to a narrow golden line that seemed to curl protectively around Harry's own name and Hermione's. Harry had tried everything he could think of. Hermione, into the mirror, nothing. Hermione Jean Granger, before the hearthstone, nothing, show me. Nothing, tell me. Nothing. Finally, sometime after 3 in the morning, he had shouted, "She chose this, I chose her. You let me bind her, so help me." The hearthstone had flared once. A single line had appeared beneath Hermione's flickering name. Choice is not armor. Harry had almost thrown the silver knife into the fire. He had not. Mostly because he suspected the manor would simply refuse to be impressed. By sunrise, his anger had cooled into something more useful and more dangerous, thought. Hermione had told him trapped people still had to think. Fine, he would think. Harry spread everything he knew across the floor in a half-circle around the hearthstone. Parchments, notes, the black book from Gallows End, the mirror. A family journal opened to a page about keying rights. A scratched household ledger listing channel risks in handwriting that looked suspiciously annoyed. The facts did not make him feel better. They made him feel hunted in a more specific way. The mirror was a keyed channel. It did not break the wards, but it did create a relationship the wards recognized. Harry had accepted Sirius's mirror through the hearthstone. He had given the repaired far glass to Hermione after keying her by blood. That meant the mirror did not merely show Hermione, it leaned on her binding. It used her name in the ledger as a road for trust, and Harry, because he had been desperate, had used that road often, too often, every call. Every whispered conversation. Every moment Hermione had hidden in cupboards and attics and bedrooms with the far glass warm in her hand. All of it had rubbed the path smoother. Then Gallows End had happened. Harry had forced the manor's hearth memory to carry a word outward. He had turned Voldemort's own taboo into bait. It had worked. Death Eaters had swarmed the wrong place. Arthur Weasley had lived, but Voldemort had answered, not fully. Not enough to locate the manor, not enough to step through, enough to touch the echo, enough to understand that Harry was not simply missing, Harry was behind a wall. Now Hermione's name flickered, because she held the only hand Harry had extended through that wall. At 7 in the morning, the mirror flashed. Harry lunged so quickly he knocked over a pot of ink. Hermione, The glass clouded. For 1 second he saw her, not clearly, a pale face, wild hair. A dark room behind her mouth opening, then the image jerked sideways. A hand closed around the far mirror, not Hermione's hand, long fingers, pale skin. A silver ring shaped like a serpent. Harry went cold. A voice breathed through the glass. "Little Harry." Bellatrix Lestrange smiled at him. The room disappeared. For a heartbeat, Harry was not in Potter Manor. He was in the Department of Mysteries again. He heard Sirius laughing. He saw Bellatrix's curse hit him. Saw Sirius's expression change from surprise to nothing as he fell backward through the veil. Harry's wand rose before he knew he had moved. Bellatrix laughed. "There you are." Harry could not speak. Her face filled the mirror, eyes bright with madness and triumph. She was too close to the glass, as if she wanted to crawl through it with her teeth. "You should see your face," she whispered. "Such a wounded little thing." "Where is Hermione?" Bellatrix's smile widened. "Is that her name, the mudblood girl?" Harry's hand tightened until the mirror frame cut into his palm. "Where is she?" "Safe enough, for now." The words were chosen, Voldemort's style, not Bellatrix's. Bellatrix liked pain too much to be careful. Someone had told her what to say. Harry forced himself to breathe. He could not throw a curse through the mirror. He could not grab her. He could not help Hermione by becoming what they wanted, visible, emotional, moving. "Put her on." Bellatrix pouted. So commanding. "Your godfather sounded like that too near the end." Harry's vision narrowed. The hearthstone fire snapped upward. Bellatrix's smile twitched. She had felt something, not seen, not entered, but felt the wards refuse his rage. That meant the mirror was still touching the boundary. Harry lowered his wand slowly. "No," he said. Bellatrix tilted her head. "No, you don't get that." For 1 second, her expression sharpened with irritation. "Good." Harry looked past her face, searching the tiny slice of room visible behind her. Stone wall, iron torch bracket, no window. Not Grimmauld Place, not the Burrow, somewhere else. "Hermione," he said clearly, not to Bellatrix but through her. "If you can hear me, do not answer, do not fight, think." Bellatrix hissed. "How sweet!" The mirror shifted. A new voice entered, soft, high, cold as winter under a door. "Harry?" Voldemort did not appear at first, only his voice came through, and that was worse. Bellatrix's face changed immediately. Devotion transformed her madness into stillness. She lowered the mirror slightly, reverent, and Harry saw the edge of dark robes beside her. Harry's scar burned. The hearthstone roared. The manor did not like that voice inside its walls, neither did Harry. "Tom," he said. Bellatrix snarled. Voldemort laughed softly, still brave behind glass. "Still afraid to come yourself?" "Afraid," Voldemort repeated, amused. "No, interested." Harry's skin crawled. "You failed at Gallows End." "I learned at Gallows End." The mirror tilted. For a brief moment, Voldemort's face appeared in the glass, pale, snake-like, red eyes bright with something more dangerous than anger, curiosity. Harry preferred rage. Rage could be baited, curiosity dissected. "You have hidden yourself well," Voldemort said. "Not by your own power, of course. You have never had much instinct for architecture." Harry said nothing. "You did not build the wall. You inherited it, like your name, like your mother's eyes. Like every scrap of protection others have died to place between you and consequence." The words tried to hit old wounds. They did. Harry let them. Pain was not instruction. Hermione would have said that. Maybe not in those words, but close enough. Voldemort continued. "Tell me, does it comfort you? Sitting in your ancestral house while others bleed outside." Harry's throat tightened. He thought of the list: Weasley, Granger, Longbottom, Lovegood, Lupin, Tonks. He thought of Arthur's name, Hermione's flickering name. "No," Harry said. Voldemort's smile was slight. "Good." Harry's anger faltered. "Good. Comfort would make you slow. Guilt makes you predictable." The words landed like a knife placed gently on a table. Harry heard Dumbledore's voice from the overheard order meeting. Harry must not be forced, but neither can he be allowed to believe withdrawal has no cost. Different men, same board, same assumption. Push Harry's guilt and Harry moves. Harry looked at Voldemort through the mirror and, for the first time, did not answer with rage. He answered with silence. Voldemort's eyes narrowed a fraction. Good. Harry held the mirror loosely and waited. The manor waited with him. Finally, Voldemort spoke again. "You have 1 hour." Harry's blood chilled. "For what?" "To step beyond your wall." "Or," Bellatrix laughed, "Voldemort did not. Or Miss Granger begins paying for your cleverness." The hearthstone fire flared so high the chamber filled with gold light. Harry's magic rose with it, furious and helpless. Then Hermione screamed, not loudly, not long, a short cry, bitten off almost at once. Bellatrix's smile returned in full bloom. Harry nearly broke. Nearly, his body moved before thought, one hand bracing against the floor as if he would spring up and run straight to the gate, straight out, straight into whatever trap waited. Then his fingers touched the parchment at his side, the page from the heir's ledger. The manor is not a weapon. It is a boundary. Harry froze, a boundary, not a sword, not a rescue spell, not a miracle. A line. Lines mattered because crossing them meant something. Voldemort wanted Harry to cross. That was the whole shape of the trap. Harry slowly sat back down. The movement cost him more than standing would have. No. Bellatrix's smile vanished. Voldemort's did not. "No," he asked. Harry's voice shook, but the word held. "No." A silence followed, not empty, measuring. Then Voldemort said, "You would abandon her." Harry closed his eyes. He saw Hermione in the lane, holding out her hand. "I am going to ask hundreds of questions. After you are not standing exposed in a lane during a war." He saw her in the mirror, furious and frightened. "Do not turn our danger into your guilt just because guilt gives you something to hold." He opened his eyes. "No," Harry said, "I am refusing you." The hearthstone fire steadied, the flicker around Hermione's name lessened just a little. Bellatrix looked uncertain now. She had expected begging. Anger, threats, those were easy. Harry stared at Voldemort. "If you wanted to hurt her, you wouldn't ask me to watch. You'd do it and send proof. You need me moving, so no." Bellatrix's face twisted. "My lord, let me—" "Quiet." She went silent instantly. Voldemort's gaze remained on Harry. For a moment, something like satisfaction touched his face. "There is a mind beneath the sentiment after all." Harry said nothing. "Very well," Voldemort continued. "Then let us discuss the other truth." Harry's stomach dropped. Voldemort lifted one pale hand. Between his fingers was a strip of parchment darkened with old blood. Harry did not recognize it. But the hearthstone did. The fire recoiled. The names on the stone dimmed. Harry's own name flared defensively. Voldemort watched his reaction with delight. "Blood magic is so honest," he said. "Crude in lesser hands, elegant in older ones, your family built a fascinating device. I confess I underestimated the Potters. They made a place that removes the heir from reach, but they were not fools. No protection exists without a price." Harry's mouth went dry. Voldemort knew not everything, but enough. "You are the keystone," Voldemort whispered. The room seemed to shrink. Bellatrix looked between them, confused and eager. Voldemort's smile widened. "Ah, you did know. How delicious." Harry said nothing. "You sit in a fortress fed by your blood. It hides because you live. It remembers because you anchor it. If you die without continuing the line, the wall falls." Harry's grip on the mirror tightened again. Voldemort leaned closer. "Which means I do not need to find your house." Harry's heart hammered. "I need only kill you when you step outside it." There it was, simple, perfect. The manor made Harry unreachable. But the prophecy still required one of them to die. If Voldemort killed Harry outside, the manor fell. Anyone Harry sheltered would be exposed. Anyone keyed would become a trail of broken promises. The fortress was not a solution. It was a hostage with Harry's heartbeat for a lock. Voldemort saw that Harry understood. "Now you begin to see, your wall does not free you. It concentrates the war into one fragile point." His eyes shone. "You!" Harry could not breathe properly. Voldemort lowered the blood-dark parchment. "Here are my terms. Step out alone. Leave the girl alive. Remain hidden, and every name you love becomes a lesson. Bring others into your wall, and you make your death their sentence." The mirror went dark. For several seconds, Harry heard nothing. Then the hearthstone chamber erupted, not with sound, with writing. Lines of gold fire raced across the floor, the walls, the base of the hearthstone. Old family script surfaced and vanished, warnings written by dead Potters for heirs who might one day be stupid, brave, desperate, or all three. Anchor risk, succession failure. Key dependence exposed upon heir death. Bloodline dimming critical. Do not shelter beyond capacity. Do not bind under siege. Do not mistake concealment for victory. Harry backed away, heart pounding. No, he whispered. The room did not care. It had told him the rule before. But rules read in a book were different from rules held in Voldemort's hand. Harry stumbled from the chamber. The manor did not stop him. He moved without knowing where he was going until he found himself in the entrance hall, facing the front door. Beyond it lay the drive, the gate, the threshold. 1 hour. Voldemort had said 1 hour. Harry did not know whether he meant it. That was part of the cruelty. A deadline did not need to be real to be useful. It simply needed to make Harry move before he could think. The front door remained closed. This time, no word appeared on it, no warning. No question. Harry laughed once weakly. Nothing, the house said nothing. You had plenty to say before. Silence. Harry pressed his forehead against the door. His scar throbbed. Hermione was outside. Harry was inside. Voldemort knew the keystone. Dumbledore had known it too. That thought arrived suddenly and burned hotter than the rest. Dumbledore. Dumbledore had sealed the manor after Harry's parents died. Dumbledore had chosen Privet Drive. Dumbledore had written that protection was not always safety. Dumbledore had known the wards fed on Harry's life. And he had not told him. Again, Harry turned away from the door. No, not again. This time he would make the old man speak. He went to the boundary. The morning was gray and damp. Mist curled around the grounds. The manor's gate stood black and still at the end of the drive, antlers woven into iron. Just beyond it, resting on the road exactly as the first had, lay a white envelope. Harry stared. Dumbledore's timing was either impossible or infuriating, possibly both. He did not step out. He used the silver hand mirror from before. The letter appeared in the glass. Harry, if you are reading this at the boundary rather than burning it, thank you. Harry almost burned it. He kept reading. I believe Tom has now learned enough of the manor's nature to understand the keystone risk. If he has not, he soon will. Peter Pettigrew's old welcome, combined with the forced resonance at Gallows End, has given him the outline. Harry's jaw clenched, so Dumbledore had pieced it together too. I am coming to the edge of the wards at noon. I will not cross. I cannot cross unless you permit it, and I will not ask you to. But there are truths I owe you, and time has become a luxury neither of us possesses. Harry looked up at the sky. Noon was less than 20 minutes away. He almost walked back to the house. Instead, he stayed by the gate, not because Dumbledore had summoned him, because Harry wanted answers. At exactly noon, Albus Dumbledore appeared on the road beyond the gate. No crack of apparition reached through the wards. One moment the road was empty. The next, Dumbledore stood there in deep blue robes, his silver hair tied back, his face older than Harry remembered and his eyes terribly clear. Harry hated the sudden ache in his chest. The last time he had stood before Dumbledore, he had screamed in his office until silver instruments shattered. He had wanted the old man to shout back, to defend himself badly, to make it easier. Dumbledore had not. He had sat there and looked broken. Now he stood outside Harry's gate, unable to see the manor fully. Harry could tell. Dumbledore's eyes rested not on the gate itself, but near it, as if his mind kept sliding away from the exact shape. Harry, Dumbledore said. Harry folded his arms. Professor Lemon. Dumbledore blinked. Despite everything, the corner of his mouth twitched. Hermione, obviously, she has a gift for classification. She also has a gift for not hiding life and death information from me. The small warmth vanished. Dumbledore inclined his head. Yes. Harry waited. The old man did not look away. Yes, Dumbledore repeated. I knew the manor existed. I knew your parents had intended it as a final refuge. I knew it was dangerous. You sealed it. I did. Harry's nails dug into his palms. Why? Dumbledore looked past him, though not directly at the house. After your parents died, the wards were unstable. James was dead. Lily was dead. You were the only Potter left, and you were 15 months old. The manor could have accepted you as anchor even then. Harry's anger faltered, confused despite itself. What does that mean? It means the house would have fed on a child too young to understand what he sustained. Harry said nothing. The concealment would have protected you from Voldemort's followers. It would also have removed you from all reach. No school letters unless specially routed. No ordinary guardians. No community. No one who had not already been keyed. Your parents were dead. Sirius was believed guilty. Peter was presumed dead. Remus was poor, grieving, and watched. The only living keyed adult with stable access was he stopped. Harry's stomach twisted. Peter, Dumbledore's silence answered. Harry gripped the gate. No. I did not know he was the traitor then, Dumbledore said quietly, but I believed him dead. The uncertainty was enough. If the manor had opened to you fully and any old welcome remained, there was a risk I could neither measure nor accept. So you sent me to the Dursleys. The words came out cold. Dumbledore closed his eyes briefly. Yes, they hated me. I know now that your suffering there was far greater than I allowed myself to see. You allowed yourself, Harry's voice rose. You left me on a doorstep. Dumbledore did not defend himself. That made Harry angrier. At least if the manor fed on me, it would have been my house. My parents' house, not a cupboard. Pain crossed Dumbledore's face. You are right to say so. Harry stared at him. He had expected arguments. Explanations sharpened into weapons. Greater good, blood wards, sacrifice, not agreement. Dumbledore continued. I chose the protection I understood and could monitor. Lily's blood through Petunia kept you visible, placeable, and alive. Potter Manor would have made you unreachable even to me. There it is. Dumbledore's gaze met his. Yes. Harry's throat tightened. At least you admit it. I have lied by omission too often to pretend otherwise now. The road between them seemed very narrow. The gate between them seemed endless. Harry said, You kept it sealed because you couldn't use me if I was here. Dumbledore flinched. Not much. Enough. Harry saw it and felt a bitter satisfaction that curdled almost immediately. I kept it sealed, Dumbledore said slowly, because I feared what would happen if the only person Voldemort had marked became impossible to guide, impossible to protect, and impossible to prepare. Guide. Yes, prepare. Yes, use. Dumbledore's voice went soft. Yes. The word struck harder than any denial. Harry had wanted him to deny it. He had wanted something to fight. The old man looked at him through the shimmer of wards he could not cross. I told myself many things over the years, Harry, that I was protecting you. That childhood ignorance was kindness. That distance would spare you. That I could carry the burden of knowledge until you were ready. His eyes shone behind his half-moon spectacles. But beneath all those noble phrases was a colder truth. I needed you alive for a war you had not chosen, and I allowed that need to excuse too much. Harry looked away first. Not because he forgave him, because staring at Dumbledore's regret felt like touching a wound that was not done bleeding. What is the real cost? Harry asked. Dumbledore drew a breath. The manor feeds on your living magic, not quickly, not cruelly. It will not drink you hollow merely because you reside there, but every keyed person increases the burden, every forced channel strains it, every attempt to make the manor act beyond its boundary draws from the anchor. Me! Yes, if I die. The wards fail unless a prepared heir, blood successor, or bound continuation exists. I'm 16. I know, so there's no heir. No, Harry laughed without humor. Brilliant. Harry, no, don't. Dumbledore fell silent. Harry looked back at him. Voldemort knows. I feared so. He took Hermione. Dumbledore's face changed sharply. She is alive. Yes, for now, the old man's hand tightened around his wand, not theatrically, not for Harry's benefit. A small movement, controlled and deadly. For a moment, Harry remembered what Dumbledore was. Not a headmaster with sweets in his office, not a tired old man with regrets, an apex player, one of the few people Voldemort feared. Where? Dumbledore asked. I don't know. Did he contact you through the mirror? Yes. Dumbledore's expression darkened. Then the channel is compromised. I worked that out. Close it. Harry's hand closed around the mirror in his pocket. If I close it, I lose her. If you leave it open, he may learn more. If I close it, she is alone. If you keep it open, he has leverage. Harry's anger flashed. There it is again. Strategy? Yes, Dumbledore said, and for the first time his voice hardened. Because Miss Granger's life now depends on it. Harry stopped. Dumbledore's gaze did not waver. Compassion without strategy is merely a faster road to grief. The words were brutal. They were also true. Harry hated truth when it came from people who had hurt him. "What do I do?" he asked, and hated that too. Dumbledore did not soften. "You do not step out in the hour Tom gave you. I already refused." A flicker of something like pride crossed Dumbledore's face, gone almost immediately. "Good." "Don't." The old man inclined his head. "What else?" You reduce the channel. No emotional response, no names, no location. If he uses Miss Granger as bait, you treat the mirror as a battlefield, not a confession booth. Harry flinched. Dumbledore saw it and continued anyway. You gather what information you can. Background sound, stone type, echo any magical signature. You let him believe he is speaking to guilt while you listen like a hunter. "I'm not a hunter." "No," Dumbledore said, "you are not, but you are no longer only prey." The words settled strangely. Harry looked back toward the manor, the house that wasn't there, the wall, the cage, the refuge. What if he hurts her because I don't move? He may. Harry's eyes snapped back. Dumbledore's face was full of grief, but he did not lie. "That is not your fault. It is my mirror. It is his cruelty. It is my choice that keyed her. It is her choice that accepted." Harry's throat closed. "Choice is not armor." "No," Dumbledore said softly, "but neither is love, and yet we use it anyway." For a moment neither spoke. Then Dumbledore reached into his robe and withdrew something small, wrapped in white cloth. He placed it on the road before the gate. "I cannot send this through. You may retrieve it if you choose." Harry used the silver boundary mirror. Inside the cloth lay a small blackened piece of wood. "What is it?" "A sliver from the door of your parents' home in Godric's Hollow." Harry's breath caught. Dumbledore continued, "James asked me once whether Potter Manor could be made to shelter beyond blood without becoming a prison. I told him old magic resists new purposes. Lily disagreed." Harry looked up sharply. "My mother?" She believed sacrificial protections were not made powerful by death, but by chosen belonging. She thought a wall could become a hearth if enough people were welcomed for the right reason. The words moved through Harry like a key turning. A wall could become a hearth. Dumbledore looked tired again. "I did not understand her then. And now I suspect she understood more than either of us." Before Harry could answer, the mirror in his pocket went ice cold. He pulled it out. Dumbledore straightened. "Harry," the glass clouded. Voldemort appeared, this time no Bellatrix, no mask, no performance. Only Voldemort's pale face framed in darkness. In the distance behind him, Harry heard water dripping, stone chamber. Underground, perhaps. Hermione was not visible. Harry forced his face still. "You're late," Voldemort said. "You noticed." Dumbledore stood beyond the gate, silent and watchful. Harry kept the mirror angled so Voldemort could not see him. Voldemort's red eyes gleamed. "You did not come." "No, a disappointing choice." "You're still talking, so not that disappointing." A brief smile, indeed. Harry listened, dripping water, a low hum like old pipes, a faint clink of chain. His stomach twisted, but he kept his face blank. Voldemort said, "I have revised my terms." Harry waited. "You will not step out for the girl, not yet. You have learned caution." "Good. Caution makes the game more interesting." "I'm not playing your game." Voldemort's smile widened. "Everyone says that before they learn the rules." Harry thought of Sirius's letter. "You cannot lose a game you refuse to play." The line, once comforting, felt incomplete now. Voldemort continued, "Here is the truth, Harry. You cannot stay hidden forever. Not because I can breach your little house. I do not need to. I will simply make the world outside it smaller. One friend, one family, one frightened ally at a time. You may refuse each individual bargain and call it strength. Eventually, you will discover that refusal is also a choice, and choices have bodies." Harry's fingers tightened around the mirror. Dumbledore's warning echoed. Treat the mirror as a battlefield. So Harry listened. Water, pipes, a distant bell, not a church bell, metallic. Scheduled ministry, no. The ministry had lifts, paper airplanes, voices. This was deeper. A train. Underground. Voldemort tilted his head. "Are you listening for her?" Harry said nothing. "Good, listen." The mirror shifted. Hermione appeared. Harry's entire body went rigid. She was seated against a stone wall, wrists bound in front of her with glowing cords. Her hair was tangled. There was a bruise on her cheek, but her eyes were open, thinking. The relief almost broke his face. He did not let it. Hermione looked at the mirror and did not say his name. Good. Brilliant girl. Voldemort's voice came from off glass. Speak, Miss Granger. Hermione's chin lifted. No, Bellatrix's hand flashed into view and struck her. Harry's magic surged. The hearthstone flared somewhere behind him, though he was at the gate. Dumbledore's eyes sharpened. Harry held still. Hermione spat blood onto the stone floor and smiled faintly. Still no. For one insane second, Harry almost laughed, not because it was funny, because Hermione was alive, terrified, hurt, and still Hermione, Voldemort, sounded amused. You choose interesting companions. I know, Harry said. Hermione's eyes flicked once, not to him, to the left. A small movement, deliberate. Harry focused. On the wall behind her, half hidden by shadow, was a painted mark. Not Death Eater, not Ministry, a number, platform style. 7B. Harry's mind raced. Dripping water. Pipes. Metallic bell. Platform marking. An abandoned underground station. London. There were old, disused tube stations all over the city. Some wizards used hidden spaces near Muggle infrastructure because magical detection got messy around electricity and motion. Hermione had given him a clue. Voldemort did not notice. Or pretended not to. The mirror swung back to Voldemort. You have until midnight. For what? To accept that hiding is not neutrality, it is abandonment. At midnight I begin teaching this to the others. Harry's voice was flat. You said you revised your terms? Yes. Bring me the location of your house. Harry almost laughed. You can't even remember it. No, but you can. You can't take it by force. No, Voldemort said softly, but you can invite. The words chilled the air. I won't. Not today, perhaps not tomorrow, but pressure reveals architecture. Even yours. Harry said nothing. Voldemort's gaze sharpened. Until midnight, then. The mirror darkened. Harry lowered it slowly. For a moment the world stood still. Then Dumbledore spoke from beyond the gate. Did you see? Harry nodded. 7B, underground station, may be abandoned. Water, pipes, a bell. Dumbledore's eyes brightened with fierce thought. There are several possibilities. You can find her. Not alone. But with that, perhaps. Harry's grip tightened. You don't get to use this to take over. Dumbledore looked at him. No, I mean it. I know. I'm not stepping out. I'm not giving you the manor. I'm not going back to being your piece. Dumbledore's voice was quiet. Then be a player. Harry stared at him. The words should have sounded manipulative. Maybe they were, but they also sounded like challenge, like recognition. Not boy, not weapon. Not pawn, player. Harry looked back toward the house. The hearthstone was there, burning with his name. The mirror was in his hand, dangerous and necessary. Hermione was outside. Voldemort knew the keystone. Dumbledore knew the cost. The fortress was safe only while Harry lived, and everyone he loved was unsafe while they remained beyond it. The old line from Sirius rose in Harry's mind. You cannot lose a game you refuse to play. For the first time, Harry heard the missing half. You cannot lose a game you refuse to play. But you cannot end one either. Hiding had saved him. It would not save Hermione. It would not save Ron. It would not save the Weasleys when Voldemort got tired of warnings and started leaving bodies instead of notes. And if Harry simply brought people in one by one, every name became tied to his survival. A refuge could become a hostage. A wall could become a tomb. Unless Lily had been right. Unless a wall could become a hearth. Harry looked at the cloth-wrapped splinter of Godric's Hollow lying beyond the gate. My mother thought the manor could shelter beyond blood. Dumbledore nodded slowly. She believed blood was only the first language old magic understood, not the last. Harry's heart began to beat harder. What would it take? Dumbledore was silent for a moment. Then he said, a Potter heir willing to change the purpose of the house. That sounds vague. Old magic often is until it is terrifyingly specific. Despite everything, Harry almost smiled. Then the smile faded. If I do this, it's not for your war. No, Dumbledore said. It's not for your plan. No, it's for them. Harry looked at the mirror. Hermione's darkened reflection looked back. Dumbledore inclined his head. Then perhaps that is why it may work. The road beyond the gate seemed to hum with distant danger. Somewhere under London, Hermione was counting on him to think. Somewhere in the shadows, Voldemort waited for guilt to move him. Somewhere behind Harry, Potter Manor waited too, ancient and patient, a house built to refuse the world. Harry bent down and picked up the boundary mirror. He dragged the cloth-wrapped splinter through the gate, using the old viewing charm, careful not to step beyond the threshold. The moment the piece of Godric's Hollow crossed onto Potter land, the manor shuddered. Every window in the house lit gold. The hearthstone flared so brightly that Harry felt it from the gate. Dumbledore took one step back, his eyes widened. "What did you do?" he whispered. Harry looked toward Potter Manor. The house that wasn't there no longer felt asleep. It felt awake, fully awake. The front door opened in the distance. Gold light spilled out across the drive like firelight from a welcoming room. Harry turned back to Dumbledore. "Tell the Order to find Hermione." "And you?" Harry closed his hand around Sirius's mirror. "I'm going to ask my house a different question." Dumbledore looked at him for a long moment, then he bowed his head, not as a teacher to a student, not as a general to a weapon, as one player acknowledging another. "I will send word when we have her." Harry turned away before the old man could say anything else. The gate closed behind him. As he walked up the drive, the manor's light grew warmer. The house did not look like a fortress now. Not exactly. It looked like every lamp in every window had been lit for someone coming home. But when Harry entered the hearthstone chamber, the warmth vanished. The names blazed, his own. His parents, Sirius, Peter, withered and dark, Hermione flickering but alive. Beneath them all, new words burned into the stone. Keystone unstable, purpose contested. Declare intent. Harry stepped closer. His ribs still ached from gallows end. His hand was bandaged. His scar throbbed. His heart felt scraped raw, but his voice did not shake. "I don't want to hide alone." The hearthstone fire bent toward him. "I don't want a tomb. I don't want a cupboard with better furniture. I don't want a place that keeps me alive by making everyone else easier to hurt." The golden flames rose. "I want shelter." The entire manor groaned, not in protest, in effort. Harry thought of Lily, who had stood between him and death without asking whether old magic was ready to understand her. He thought of James, who had trusted too easily and loved too loudly and still built a house worth returning to. He thought of Sirius, who had told him to choose the ground. He thought of Hermione bleeding on a stone floor and still thinking. Ron angry because he cared too much. Molly feeding fear because she could not stab it. Arthur smiling at plugs and batteries and boys who needed fathers. Harry placed both hands on the hearthstone. The fire did not burn him. "Show me how to let them in without making them hostages to my death." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then every name on the stone dimmed, even Harry's. The room fell into darkness. A single sentence appeared in the black. "Give the house more than one heart." Harry stared. Then, beneath that, another line formed. "At midnight, choose." The golden fire returned, low and waiting. Harry looked at Sirius's mirror. Somewhere outside, Voldemort had given him until midnight to surrender. The manor had given him until midnight to become something else. Harry closed his fingers around the mirror. For the first time since he had found Potter Manor, he understood the trap completely. He was unfindable, he was cornered, he was safe. He was the keystone, and if he stayed only that, everyone he loved would eventually be used against him. The next move could not be hiding, it could not be fighting. It had to change what the house was. Far away, thunder rolled over a place the world could not remember. Harry stood before the hearthstone as the last Potter heir and waited for midnight. Midnight came toward Potter Manor like a storm with no rain. Harry stood in the hearthstone chamber, sleeves rolled to the elbow, wand on the floor where he could see it but not reach for it by instinct. That had been deliberate. Tonight was not about throwing spells faster than fear. It could not be. Every time Harry had mistaken courage for speed, someone else had paid first. The hearthstone burned low in the center of the chamber. Its golden flame did not crackle. It pulsed, like a heartbeat. Around the chamber, every old Potter name glowed in a ring of faint light. Some were barely visible, smoke thin beneath centuries of dust and death. Others held brighter. James and Lily shone side by side. Sirius's name burned silver-white, stubborn even in the dark. Peter Pettigrew's withered letters crouched lower on the stone, still remembered, still unwelcome. Hermione's name flickered, less than before, still too much. Harry watched it until his eyes stung. Give the house more than one heart. That was what the manor had told him, simple words. Impossible meaning. The old portraits had not been as helpful as Harry wanted. That is because, the silver-haired witch had told him from the library mantel, you keep asking for instructions as though old magic is a potion recipe. I like potion recipes, Harry had snapped. They tell you what explodes before it explodes. Rarely in your case, said the old wizard with spectacles. Harry had ignored him. The portraits explained what they could. Potter Manor had been built on blood, yes, but blood was only its first language. That was why Sirius's name could burn. That was why Hermione's could. Chosen trust had always mattered here. The problem was that, for generations, the Potters had used choice only to admit people into a structure still anchored by Potter blood. A house with guests, a fortress with one keystone, a wall held up by one living body. Lily had wondered whether it could become something else. A house with more than one heart, not heirs, not blood successors, not new Potters, hearth-bearers, people who freely chose not merely to enter the manor but to help sustain its purpose. They would not control it, they would not own it, they could not command it against Harry. But if they swore to shelter rather than secrecy, to refuge rather than possession, the burden would no longer rest on Harry alone. The manor would not be only a Potter hiding place, it would become a sanctuary. There were costs. Of course there were costs. The portraits had listed them with the grim satisfaction of old people explaining how a ladder could kill you. The manor would become harder to conceal from those already keyed. More names meant more trust. More trust meant more possible grief. Every hearth-bearer could be pressured, frightened, followed, or used before reaching the gate. The manor still could not attack outward. It still could not save anyone who refused to come. It still could not win a war, and the biggest cost was the simplest. Harry would have to give up absolute control. A private fortress obeyed one heir. A sanctuary listened to many hearts that frightened him more than Voldemort's threats. Harry could admit that now, alone before the hearthstone, because there was no one there to hear. He had spent 15 years with no control over where he lived, what he was told, who decided what pain was necessary. Then Potter Manor had given him the one thing no adult had ever handed him freely, a door that closed when he asked, a place no one could enter without his choice. A world where Harry Potter could finally say no and have magic itself enforce it. And now the only way to stop that safety from becoming another cupboard was to open the door. Not to everyone, not blindly, but enough. The mirror flashed on the floor. Harry snatched it up. Dumbledore's face appeared first, dimly lit by blue-white spell-light. He was not smiling. He was breathing harder than usual, silver hair loose around his face, one cheek marked by soot. "We found her," Dumbledore said. Harry's knees nearly gave. "Hermione, alive." The word struck him like sunrise. For a moment he could not speak. The mirror shifted. Hermione's face appeared bruised, exhausted, furious, beautifully, wonderfully furious. "Harry," he exhaled something that was almost a laugh and almost a sob. "You're alive." "Yes," she said, voice hoarse. "And if you say anything sentimental, I may be sick." He laughed then, properly. It hurt his ribs. "You're sure you're all right?" "No, but I'm here." "Where?" Her eyes narrowed, still using codes. "Good. I am with Lemon and several terrifying adults near Blue 7. Dumbledore had found the abandoned underground station. Harry glanced at the hearthstone. Hermione's name steadied for 3 whole seconds. "Can you get to the boundary?" Dumbledore's voice returned, calm but urgent. "We can bring her near the old lane. The wards may still refuse our perception." "They will," Harry said, "but I can meet you at the gate." Hermione's eyes sharpened. "Harry, do not step outside." "I won't. Promise." "I promise." She searched his face. This time he meant it. Dumbledore spoke again. "Voldemort knows the rescue succeeded. He withdrew before we could force a confrontation." "Of course he did," Harry muttered. He left a message. Harry went cold. "What?" Dumbledore hesitated. Hermione did not. "He knows you won't trade yourself for one person now, so he's moving faster." Harry gripped the mirror. "Who?" Dumbledore answered, "The Weasleys are already moving. Remus and Tonks are gathering Neville and Luna. Kingsley is warning several others. We do not have time to secure everyone through ordinary safe houses." Voldemort had revised the board again. If one hostage did not move Harry, many might. Harry looked at the hearthstone. At midnight, choose. What time? 11:23, Hermione said. 37 minutes. Harry's mouth went dry. Bring them. Hermione stared at him. Bring who? All of them. Dumbledore's eyes sharpened. Harry, the manor cannot admit unkeyed people casually. I know. Keying so many at speed may endanger you. I know. Hermione leaned close to the mirror. What did the hearthstone show you? Harry looked down at his bandaged hand. A way to change the burden. Her expression changed, not relief. Understanding. That was the thing Harry had missed most. Hermione understanding too quickly, then becoming scared because understanding made things worse. More than one heart, she whispered. Harry blinked. How did you? You said the wards feed through anchor logic. If Lily thought belonging could alter sacrificial protections, then the answer is distributed consent, not bloodline inheritance, shared hearth binding. Despite everything, Harry stared. You worked that out after being kidnapped. I was tied up, not unconscious. Dumbledore made a sound that was almost a laugh and almost grief. Hermione ignored him. Harry, listen. Shared binding cannot be forced. Not by you, not by fear, not by emergency. I know. No, you must say it clearly. People cannot agree because they think you will die otherwise. His heart twisted. Then why would they agree? Hermione's face softened. Because they want the same thing you do. The mirror dimmed as if the channel itself was tired. Dumbledore spoke quickly. We are moving now, Professor, Harry said. Dumbledore paused. Harry had not called him that in days. Maybe not in his heart for longer. You don't come in. The old man did not look surprised. No, I mean it. You can bring them to the boundary. You can help outside, but the manor is not yours to plan from. I understand. Harry stared at him through the glass. Do you? Dumbledore's face was lined with exhaustion and something like sorrow. Yes, he said quietly. I think I begin to. The mirror went dark. Harry stood alone again for about 5 seconds. Then the portrait hall erupted. Insane, declared the old wizard with spectacles from the chamber wall, having apparently relocated himself there without permission. Brave, said another portrait. Those are cousins, said the silver-haired witch. Keying half a war at midnight, muttered a painted man in 17th-century robes. Typical Potter timing. Harry turned. Can it work? The portraits fell silent. That was how he knew the answer was not no. The silver-haired witch spoke. It can work if you stop thinking like an heir protecting his property. Harry swallowed. And think like what? A host protecting a hearth. The word landed in him. Host, not owner, not weapon, not keystone, host. Harry turned back to the hearthstone. What do I do? This time the manor answered. Gold fire rose from the hearthstone and split into thin lines across the floor. The lines formed a circle around the chamber, then another beyond it and another, widening until they disappeared under the door. Words burned above the stone. Name the purpose. Harry stepped closer. His voice was quiet at first. Shelter. The fire stirred. He tried again. This house was built to refuse the world when the world came hunting. I'm not changing that. Voldemort doesn't get in. Death Eaters don't get in. The Ministry doesn't get in. Dumbledore doesn't get in just because he thinks he knows better. The portraits said nothing. The fire listened. But I don't want refusal to be the only thing this place knows. Harry placed his hand over his own name on the stone. I want the people being hunted because of me to have a door. I want fear to stop being a leash. I want a home that isn't a prison. The hearthstone brightened. Name the cost. Harry closed his eyes. Control, the word hurt. He opened his eyes. I give up being the only heart, not the heir, not the owner, but the only heart. Anyone who chooses the hearth freely carries shelter with me, not as my subject, not as my soldier, not as someone I can command. As someone the house recognizes when I am weak or gone or wrong. The chamber shivered. The old names flared. James, Lily, Sirius. Hermione, even Peter's withered name sparked once, then shrank lower, as if the manor itself understood the difference between trust and treachery. Name the boundary. Harry's jaw tightened. No one enters unwilling. No one is keyed under threat. No one uses the manor to trap someone else. No one takes the hearth by force, law, title, office, prophecy, fear, or love. The last word came out harder than he expected, because love could trap too. The Dursleys had called blood obligation love. Dumbledore had hidden plans beneath protective love. Voldemort used Harry's love like a handle. Harry would not build another cage and call it home. The hearthstone roared. The front door opened by itself somewhere far down the halls. A wind moved through Potter Manor, warm and wild. Lamps flared. Sleeping portraits woke. The library doors flew open. In the kitchen, pots rang like bells. Across the grounds, the dry fountain cracked, and water burst from the stone stag's mouth for the first time in years. The manor was awake. Fully awake. And beyond the gate, people were coming. Harry ran. The halls seemed shorter now, not because the house moved for him, but because it was no longer resisting itself. He reached the entrance hall as the front doors stood wide open, golden light spilling across the drive. The night beyond was black and wet. Rain had begun. Harry ran down the drive to the gate. He stopped on the inside. The iron antlers loomed above him. Beyond them, the road looked empty. Then a voice shouted from nowhere. "Harry, Ron." Harry's heart lurched. He gripped the gate but did not open it yet. "I'm here." Ron appeared slowly, not physically. He had already been there. Harry understood that with a strange twist of perception. Ron, Hermione, and Ginny stood in the road just beyond the wards, soaked by rain. But the manor had been refusing Harry's mind the sight of them until the gate recognized his intent. Behind them stood Dumbledore, Remus, Tonks, Moody, Kingsley, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. Fred and George, Neville, Luna, and several others Harry recognized only in flashes from the Order or DA. Hermione looked like she might fall over. Ron had one arm braced behind her back, his eyes locked on Harry. For 1 second, neither boy spoke. Then Ron said, voice rough, "You look terrible." Harry laughed, "You too." Ron's face twisted. The anger was still there, the hurt, the fear, but underneath all of it was Ron, standing in the rain because Harry had asked him to come. "You should have told me." Ron said, "I know. I mean, really should have. I know, I'm still angry." "I know," Ron swallowed, "but I'm here." Harry's throat closed. "Yeah," Hermione leaned against the gate, pale but upright. "Explanations later. Ritual now." "Bossy even after rescue," Fred said. "Comforting, isn't it?" George added. Mrs. Weasley was crying silently, one hand pressed to her mouth as she looked at Harry. Arthur stood beside her, face grave and warm and alive. Harry looked at them all. Every one of them was a possible leak, a possible vulnerability, a possible future grief. And also the reason the house could not remain empty. He opened the gate. No one moved. They could see the drive now. Harry watched the knowledge strike them. The old trees, the golden-lit manor in the distance, the impossible space where London had forgotten how to be. Luna smiled softly. "Oh," she said, "it was shy." Neville looked as if his knees might give out. Remus stared toward the manor with open pain. "Serious," he whispered. Harry heard him, so did the house. Far behind Harry, one upstairs window flashed silver-white. Remus bowed his head. Dumbledore remained in the road, exactly where Harry had told him to stay. His eyes moved over the gate, the drive, the light. He looked like a man seeing both a miracle and a judgment. Harry turned to the group. "I need to say this clearly." The rain fell harder. No one interrupted. "The manor can hide you. If you cross and choose the hearth binding, Voldemort can't find you here. The ministry can't track you here. Owls, scrying, name magic, the trace, all of it fails inside." A ripple moved through the group. Moody muttered, "That'll be the day." "But it isn't free." Harry continued. "The wards feed on the anchor, on me, and if I die with everyone only tied to me, the wards fall." Mrs. Weasley gasped. Ron's face went white. Hermione closed her eyes as if she had expected the words and hated them anyway. "So I'm changing it," Harry said. "Or trying to." "The manor said it needs more than one heart. Anyone who chooses can become a hearth-bearer. Not a Potter, not under my control. You help carry the shelter. That means you can find this place. You can enter it. The house recognizes you, but it also means trust, real trust." If you are captured outside, pressured, tricked, or followed before reaching the wards, there is risk. If you don't want that, do not cross. His voice shook once. He forced it steady. No one has to do this. Not because of me, not because of the war, not because someone tells you it's necessary. His eyes flicked to Dumbledore. The old man accepted it without looking away. Harry looked back at the others. If you cross, it has to be because you choose shelter, not hiding forever, not running from the fight. Shelter, a place to protect the hunted so Voldemort can't use them as bait. For the first time, no one flinched when he said the name, maybe because the rain swallowed it, maybe because the gate stood between them and fear, maybe because they were tired. Ron moved first. Of course he did, not because he understood the magic best, not because he had no fear. Harry could see fear all over his face. Ron moved because he had always been the first person to sit beside Harry on the train when no one else had. He stepped through the gate. The wards rippled. Ron inhaled sharply, then glared at the air. Feels weird. Harry laughed despite himself. Thanks. Ron held out his hand. Harry stared at it. No dramatic blood knife, Hermione said weakly. Unfortunately, there is probably a dramatic blood knife. There is, Harry admitted. Ron sighed. Figures. Harry took the silver knife from his pocket. He cut his thumb, then Ron's, a small drop of blood. Nothing more. Their hands clasped. Ronald Bilious Weasley, Harry said. Ron winced. Had to use the whole thing, did you? The gate flashed gold. Far away inside the manor, the hearthstone answered. Ron's name did not appear as Potter gold. It burned warm orange, like kitchen fire and Chudley Cannon's robes, and every meal Mrs. Weasley had forced Harry to eat. Ron looked toward the house. I can feel it. What? Like? Ron swallowed. Like the burrow, but older, and judging my shoes. That might just be the portraits. One of the windows flashed indignantly. Hermione stepped next. Harry's chest tightened when he saw her limp. You already keyed me, she said. This is different. I know. Are you sure? Her eyes softened. No, but I choose it anyway. He cut a fresh line across his thumb. She offered hers without hesitation. Hermione Jean Granger. Her name inside the manor flared steady. The flickering stopped. Harry felt the moment it happened, like a knot loosening around his ribs. Hermione breathed in sharply. Oh, she whispered. That's better. Ron looked between them. You two are going to explain all of this in words normal people use. No promises, Hermione said. Ginny stepped through before anyone could stop her. Mrs. Weasley made a sound of protest. Ginny ignored it. Ginevra Molly Weasley? Harry said, and managed not to smile when her eyes warned him never to use the full name casually again. Her binding burned bright and fierce, a flame with edges. Then Fred and George came together. Separate names, Hermione said immediately. We are wounded, deeply wounded. Magically speaking, still separate people. Debatable. Harry keyed them separately while trying not to laugh. Arthur and Molly crossed together, though Mrs. Weasley stopped before offering her hand and took Harry's face between both of hers instead. You poor boy, she whispered. Harry almost broke. Then she hugged him so tightly his ribs protested. For one moment, Potter Manor, Voldemort, Dumbledore, prophecy, and blood magic all vanished beneath the crushing warmth of Molly Weasley refusing to let him stand alone. When she let go, Harry's eyes burned. I have to cut your thumb, he said awkwardly. Molly sniffed. Then do it properly. No infection. Yes, Mrs. Weasley. Arthur smiled gently when his turn came. Thank you, Harry. I'm trying to thank you. Arthur's eyes shone. Then we shall call it even for tonight. Neville crossed with his jaw set and his hands shaking. I'm scared, he admitted. Me too, Harry said. Neville nodded, as if that helped. Maybe it did. Luna drifted through the gate as if entering hidden manors in rainstorms was something she had always expected to do eventually. The house likes names, she said. Harry blinked. Yes, good. Names like being liked back. Hermione opened her mouth, then closed it. No one had the energy. Remus came last among those Harry had expected. He stopped at the threshold. Rain ran down his tired face. He looked past Harry toward the house, and for a moment he was not Professor Lupin or Order member or werewolf or last marauder. He was a young man seeing a home full of ghosts. James keyed me here when we were 15, Remus said quietly. Harry stared. The hearthstone had not shown his name. Remus smiled sadly. I asked to be removed during the war. Full moons, missions, fear makes people foolish. I thought it safer. Harry did not know what to say. Remus offered his hand. If the house will have me again. Harry's throat tightened. It will? When Remus's name burned into the ledger, the light was quiet and silver-gray, like moonlight through cloud. Tonks crossed after him, hair bubblegum pink despite the rain, chin raised as if daring the manor to object. It did not. Others followed, not everyone. Some stayed outside with Dumbledore. Moody refused at first on principle, then grudgingly agreed only to a limited emergency key after Hermione used the phrase strategic redundancy. Kingsley accepted with solemn care. A few Order members chose not to cross, and Harry made himself thank them anyway. Choice had to mean no. Otherwise, it was only another cage. At 11:57, the gate stood open, and the drive behind Harry was filled with people the world could no longer easily use against him, not safe forever, not untouched, but removed from the easiest reach. The manor glowed brighter with each name. Harry felt the burden changing, not disappearing, never disappearing, but shifting. His chest no longer felt like a single hook held the entire house through his ribs. Instead, the warmth spread outward, threading through the people who had chosen the hearth. Ron's stubborn orange, Hermione's sharp candle gold, Molly's deep kitchen fire red, Arthur's steady amber, Ginny's fierce flame, Remus's moonlit silver, Neville's trembling green gold, Luna's pale, strange glow. More than one heart. Harry turned to the road. Dumbledore still stood beyond the gate, alone now. The rain had soaked his robes. He looked older than he had at the start of the night, but his wand remained steady in his hand. Their eyes met. For a second, Harry considered it, letting him in not as general, not as manipulator, as an old man who had fought Voldemort longer than Harry had been alive. Then Harry thought of the cupboard, the prophecy, the sealed estate, the office full of broken silver instruments. Not tonight, maybe not ever. Dumbledore seemed to understand. He bowed his head. Harry closed the gate. At midnight, Voldemort spoke. Not through the mirror, through the name. Every person inside Potter Manor felt it as a cold pressure against the wards. The taboo struck somewhere outside, searching for Harry Potter, for Hermione Granger, for Arthur Weasley. For every name Voldemort had turned into leverage, it found nothing. The manor did not hide them one by one. It refused the question. In the Hearthstone chamber, the golden fire became a pillar. Every newly bound name appeared across the stone, circling Harry's not beneath it, but around it. The house groaned. The ground shook at the gate. The road beyond twisted, blurred, and forgot. Somewhere outside, Death Eaters arrived at locations that no longer mattered. The burrow stood empty. The old safe houses held shadows. The targets had stepped off the board. Voldemort's magic pressed harder. The wards bent. Harry staggered. Ron caught one arm. Hermione caught the other. Behind them, Molly gripped Ginny. Arthur held Fred and George by their shoulders. Neville stood with Luna beside him. Remus and Tonks raised their wands, though there was nothing to aim at. That was the point. Power had come looking for a duel. It found a wall. The cold pressure sharpened into a voice only Harry could fully hear. You cannot hide them forever. Harry looked at the hearthstone. No, he said, but you can't use them tonight. The pressure recoiled. For the first time, Harry felt Voldemort understand the change, not defeat, never defeat, rage. Voldemort had not lost the war. His Horcruxes still anchored him. His followers still moved. The ministry still trembled. The prophecy still waited like a knife beneath cloth. But the simplest lever had snapped in his hand. Harry Potter's friends were no longer easy bait. The cold vanished. The manor stood. For several seconds, no one moved. Then Fred said weakly, "Well, that was cozy." George nodded. "Very welcoming." Mrs. Weasley burst into tears. Ron sat down hard on the floor. Hermione did too, though with more dignity and immediate complaint about her bruises. Harry remained standing only because Remus put a hand on his shoulder. "You did it," Remus said softly. Harry looked around the chamber, at the names, at the people, at the house. "No," he said. Hermione looked up. What? Harry swallowed. I started it. Dumbledore's voice came from the boundary later, carried by a Patronus shaped like a phoenix that could not cross fully into the manor but could burn at the edge of perception. His message was brief. Voldemort has withdrawn his active search parties for the night. He is not weakened. He is not finished, but he has recognized the change. Harry, he will adapt, the phoenix shimmered. Then Dumbledore's voice softened. So must we? Harry listened from the gate with Ron, Hermione, and Remus beside him. No one spoke until the Patronus faded. Then Ron said, "So what now?" Harry looked back at Potter Manor. Warm light filled every window. For the first time, the house did not look patient or empty. It looked occupied, not full yet, not healed, but awake with voices, footsteps, arguments, tea, fear, plans, and the beginning of something that might one day deserve the name home. "The war's still out there," Hermione said quietly. "I know. You know who is still alive." "I know. Dumbledore still knows more than he says." Harry glanced toward the empty road. "Probably." "Then what now?" Ron repeated. Harry put a hand in his pocket. His fingers brushed Sirius's letter. "You cannot lose a game you refuse to play." He finally understood why Sirius had added the next part without writing it. Refusing the game saved you from being moved. It did not save the people still trapped on the board. Harry had left the board to survive. Now he had pulled others to ground Voldemort could not command. That did not make him a king. It did not make him a general. It made him something smaller and stranger, a third power, a house that wasn't there, a hearth outside the map, a boy no longer willing to be used by either side. "We learn," Harry said. Hermione's eyes sharpened immediately. "Learn what?" Harry looked toward the Hearthstone chamber. In his mind, he still saw the golden names circling his own, names hidden beyond reach, lives tied to a structure that refused death by refusing discovery. The thought should have been comforting. Instead, it opened a door in his understanding. Voldemort had done something similar, not with a house, not with love, with pieces of himself, hidden off the board so death could not find the whole. Harry's breath slowed. He understood concealment now, not as a spell in a book, as architecture. A thing could hide a vital part of itself beyond reach and become almost impossible to kill. But every hidden thing had rules, boundaries, anchors, costs. Voldemort's soul was not a mystery fog anymore. It was a house with rooms, a terrible house, a broken house, but still a structure, and structures could be studied. Hermione saw his face. "What?" Harry looked at her, then at Ron. "I think I understand something about Horcruxes." The word fell quietly. Ron went pale. Hermione stopped breathing for half a second. Remus closed his eyes. Harry looked back at the manor. James and Lily's house had hidden him from two apex players and nearly made him a prisoner. Then he had changed its purpose. Voldemort had hidden himself to never lose. Maybe one day, Harry would learn how to make that hidden thing betray its purpose too. But not tonight. Tonight, Mrs. Weasley was making tea in a kitchen that had not heard family noise in years. Fred and George were arguing with a portrait about whether haunting counted as loitering. Luna was introducing herself to the fountain. Neville was sitting very carefully on a priceless antique chair while trying not to look afraid of it. Ginny was asking Hermione questions faster than Hermione could answer. Arthur Weasley was alive. Tonight, Harry Potter stood at the gate of a house no one could find unless invited, and for the first time in his life he did not feel placed. He had chosen the ground, not to hide alone, to shelter. Behind him, Potter Manor burned with warm gold light. Before him, the road disappeared into war. Harry closed the gate, not forever, not in surrender, only for the night. And the house that wasn't there finally became a home.